Hello?
We're on to Cincinnati.
You play to win the game.
It was all that Dan Marino's fault. Everyone knows that.
When it's too tough for them, it's just right for us.
Covering the New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, New York Jets, and the Buffalo Bills.
180! 180!
Kyle Smith.
What kind of defense is it? Because they're disguising their coverages late. Julio Jones, Chris Hogan, identical stat line.
Gary Smith.
Percy Harvin threw a dumbbell at him, Kyle in the weight room. Kyle, please, my butt.
AFC East Bros Podcast.
Gary and Kyle here, talking AFC East yet again. Draft is less than a month away now. Draft-centric talk heating up. Today we're going to talk about draft rumors, what teams are looking into what guys, what are the draft rumors floating around about the AFC East. Going to get in a little bit of that. Our buddy Travis Wingfield, our Dolphins contributor, might be joining us a little bit later on. So talk some draft prospects with him. And from here on out, every single week, I'm going to try to get multiple draft guys on, draft evaluators, draft gurus, if you will. Got a couple guys lined up, all-star packed audience, trying to get more. Sometimes we might have 2 or 3 on a particular show. The amount of calls that we'll take will reduce. But anyway, Gary, what's going on?
Nothing much, Kyle. And I gotta apologize on the air right now to you and your wife, to all our listeners, because your wife sent me a nice text the other day about surprising Dad, and I didn't respond to her, so I feel bad. So I'll make it public. Kyle, I'm sorry. Yasmin, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I just got caught up in a lot of things, but yes, we enjoyed coming over your house this weekend and surprising Dad. And let me tell you something. Dad fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker, Kyle.
Well, we have you to thank for that because you're the expert at pulling those types of things off. Surprise parties, totally fooling people. I knew that you were the right man for the job. We actually fooled them 2 years in a row, and you're the ringleader both times. Last year, you told them that your MMA coach was throwing you like a celebration party or something. What was it exactly?
Something of that nature. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it was. And of course, Dad's all gung ho about seeing me fight people. I don't know for whatever reason he likes seeing his boys compete. So, anyway, that worked, and then getting the generator at BJ's worked too.
Yeah, he came over and he's like, "Come on, get your shoes on. We got to go move a 300-pound generator." Little did he know.
He was selling the job for me. I love that.
Well, Gary, let's get our first caller on before we have our guest on, and that's none other than Mr. MIA, Mr. Lost at Sea. That's Mr. Brian Peckinpah. What's going on, Brian?
Nothing much. Just in a hotel in Washington. Just got from Dutch Harbor last night. Finished fishing, so.
Now, what type of commercial fishing were you doing this time?
We were long lining for a gray cod.
Okay. Now, being a Dolphins fan, this might be the dumbest question of all time. Do you ever catch any dolphins in these nets?
Sharks.
Sharks all the time. Sharks.
Yeah, a lot of sharks, a lot of salmon sharks. Not in the net, because the net long line is just like a big old line, bunch of fathoms down. But trawling is when you do the net.
Nice. Any great white ever?
No, I don't think they go up that high. The only thing I know is just the salmon sharks and things like that. They get about 8 feet, 9 feet.
Yeah, you're in frigid waters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the Bering Sea. Yeah, like where like the deadliest catches, stuff like that.
Great white's more warmer climate.
Yeah, I think so.
So Ben, what's on your mind, AFC East related? You're a big Dolphins fan. I kind of wondered. I got a little concerned for you for a moment because you're always really active on the Twitter, asking questions, trolling people, and I didn't see that for a long time. So I know that you probably got some questions you want to ask or some opinions, some hot takes. Go ahead.
I don't really have a whole lot. I mean, I haven't been having access to any world for the last couple months, so just want to call in and guys say hi. And I only heard a few things like he got extension and Bushrod got a contract, and they're still working on Landry from what I understand.
You guys re-signed Stills?
Yeah, I got to commend the Dolphins' approach to free agency, keeping their own, even though Stills, Kiko, and Bushrod are not drafted by the Dolphins. Still, they were pretty good, except Bushrod. I shouldn't say Bushrod was pretty good for them last year, but at least they brought the band back together. It seemed to work, and now they could build off of that. So I commend the used car salesman Tannenbaum for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's good to actually see that happening.
What do you think about the Andre Branch re-signing? You fan of that or no?
Yeah, I like him just for that, for just another quality player, but I think we still need to address that position as well.
There's rumors that finally it's going to happen that they're going to dump Deion Jordan. What do you think about that? Do you think that they should try to give him another shot? I mean, does it hurt at this point?
I think he's just taken up a roster spot, to be honest. I think he should have been dropped about 2 seasons ago. He hasn't been playing. He's just taken up a roster spot for somebody else that we can even put on the special teams.
Kyle, one of the biggest mysteries is how Deion Jordan's still on the Miami Dolphins. That might be a bigger mystery than Vlad Dukas keeping contracts in the NFL.
No, not as big as Vlad, but it is a pretty damn big mystery.
Wasn't he supposed to go to Philadelphia at one point?
I remember Chip Kelly was hot to trot for him, but nothing came to fruition.
Yeah.
You know, Chip Kelly and those Oregon players, Kyle.
He's got an
So I'm curious, what do you guys think about Ajayi next year?
Oh, figures. He goes Ajayi talking.
You know, you can't. I tell you what, Brian, you cannot go a segment without talking about Jay Ajayi.
Hell no. Heck no. I'm sorry.
I think if he stays,
he's like one of our better weapons we have though on offense. I mean, we don't have really that many.
Might be the best.
Big
might be the best. I mean, Parker's been disappointing. Landry, he's good but overrated for sure. Stills is, kind of a one-dimensional player but really good at what he does. I think Ajayi is probably your best all-around weapon if you don't include a quarterback there. I think if he stays healthy, you'll see another good season or 2 of him, but I think he falls off a cliff after that. Gary, what do you think?
Well, Brian, I've mentioned this time and time again. His running style is not suited for long-term use.
Right. I was just thinking about his second year as a starter. I guess that's why I'm kind of thinking about it. Is like this is his second full season. See how he does. If they're going to revamp more of the offensive line to see what they're going to do with Albert. If they're going to move him to guard, because there's been rumors about that due to his age.
Well, like I said, let's just on the Jay topic. I agree with Kyle. I think he's going to have a good season this coming year, which is good for Dolphins fans. But there needs to be a long-term solution at that running back position. I think Jay Ajayi, Kyle, you look at some of the hits he takes. First of all, he definitely does a good job on initial contact, but 3-4 defenders just chopping at him. I mean, he does not evade tacklers well.
Yeah, he looks to initiate the contact, which in a certain sense you love, but
like I said, he's like your favorite MMA fighter, favorite boxer, likes to stay in the pocket and bang. He's very entertaining, but eventually that guy starts to get knocked out because, hey, listen, his chin can only take so much, and you're going to find out that Jay Ajayi's body is going to break down a lot faster than, let's just say, for example, a guy like LaShawn McCoy who evades tackles but doesn't really take the big lick, or even Le'Veon Bell, who's similar in size to Jay Ajayi. You don't see him get popped too much. He gets his yards, and he'll look to actually go out of bounds. Jay Ajayi will never go out of bounds. In fact, if that big safety is coming up to wallop him, Jay Ajayi is going to try to lower his shoulder and try to make a statement, which is foolish. But no doubt about it, he's very entertaining. He's a tough runner. He's a good runner. He's got great vision. He's everything you want in a running back. It's just that I hope that if I was him, I would want to try to extend my career, not diminish it.
Thanks for the call, Brian, and we hope to hear from you soon. I believe that our next guest is none other than Benjamin Allbright. Is this you, Ben?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you, Ben?
Doing all right. A little bit tired, but I'll live.
There you go.
So, Ben, I'm trying to think, how exactly was I going to label you? And the term Renaissance man came to mind. I was reading one of the articles about yourself that you had posted some time ago about, your time in the military. And, it stated things like, you scored almost a perfect score on the LSAT. Obviously, you do a lot with football. You got, insider scoops, served in the military. I mean, shoot. You're doing a whole bunch of stuff. So, but I think that probably most people turn to your opinion and follow you because of your insider info. Would you say that that's a fair statement?
Well, I hope that's the reason, and I hope it's not just for the regular dumpster fire that is my Twitter account. But yeah, I would say that that's probably the thing. It's different. It's interesting, I guess. The evolution of social media me, I guess. I started off as being a guy that was just busting the chops of guys who were putting out fraudulent information. When I got on Twitter, that's what it was for. I saw so many reporters putting out speculation as fact or things that were demonstrably false. So I went after that, like that the Jaguars were imminently moving to London or things like that. And it kind of morphed into something else. It morphed into, for a while there, it was, draft takes on the quarterbacks, and I still do a lot of that. And then it was, some gambling advice for wager guys who like to do that. And then ultimately it became the quote unquote insider stuff, although I hate that label.
Yeah. It's definitely not a good label because people start to rely on you. And if you're not accurate, if you try to just put something out there that may be true, but then it doesn't come to fruition, people they copy, they paste, they screenshot stuff, and it could get you into some debates, which I hate.
Yeah, I don't put anything out on Twitter unless I've got it double sourced. And when I say double sourced, I mean personally double sourced, not confirmation from some Joe Schmo on Twitter or whatever. But you still get burned with that. I mean, even if you've got an agent and you've got a player's family member saying, "Hey, this is going to happen," things can change. Things are fluid. Especially with regards to free agency and contract signings and things like that. And so, for instance, with Kenny Britt, there was some rumor, I guess, floating around Twitter about him signing with the Eagles. But I had family members that were telling me that. And from what I understand now, they were told that if any word of the deal with the Browns leaked out, it was coming off the table. So they were spreading misinformation just to shut people up. And I got burned by that. It happens, and you got to eat it.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, so Ben was the absolute first guy to break the Kenny Stills news. He was saying it basically 4 hours before, it was official, and other guys like Rand Getlin were saying, oh, it's official now. Ben was staying firm when many people were thinking Stills is a goner. He's going to the Eagles. He's taking several million more dollars a year, but you remain firm on that. Many other things. I guess maybe would you say that quantity wise, maybe you don't put out as much as some of these other guys, but in terms of quality, in terms of being correct, you're probably a little bit more spot on. Is that fair to say?
Well, I don't want to take away from anybody else, as far as that goes, but I try, I strive for quality. I'm a one-man operation. I don't have, like Ian Rappaport, I don't have a staff of 12 that works for me to be able to make that, this, more far-reaching than it is. One of the people I've grown to rely on in this industry as I've worked my way in is kind of Adam Schefter. He and I talk quite a bit on via direct message on Twitter, and he's kind of given me a lot of career advice and helped me along with different things. But I don't have and he's the best in the business, bar none. But I don't have the staff that he has. You see the cameras following him around. He's juggling 2 phones. He also has a staff of people that are working for him as well, and you don't really see that. So I think that I try to do the best I can being one guy, but sometimes I'm not able to catch up to some of the stories as quick as some of the other guys, and so the way I try to do it is I try to triangulate. I try to target guys that that I already have relationships with, or stories of guys that I think are going to be big names that are going to move, or surprises, and I try to go after those in an effort to maybe differentiate myself and get ahead of the stories that I can get ahead of, rather than just, swim upstream like everybody else.
Ben, I got to ask you real quick. We just want to be open and honest, especially to our listeners. All of them probably have Twitter, and that's probably how they discovered us, most of them. who is someone, and like I said, let's do everyone, all the listeners, a favor out there. Who is someone that they shouldn't follow? Someone who likes to create a lot of smoke screens that might be in the mainstream media. Someone that you recommend that we all probably think is a credible source, but you know, we like to say this. There's new term that comes out. It's called fake news. Who's someone that spews a lot of that?
Oh man, that's.
I know you don't want to throw you on the bus, but let's do a service to our listeners out here.
I would say that, if you want reliable stories, Rand Getland is very good. Adam Schefter is very good. Those guys are above reproach. After you get out of that circle, you start to get a declining level of integrity. I would say Ian Rappaport is up there, but not at the level that the other two guys are at. And then some of the other insiders, or quote-unquote insiders, whatever you want to call them, guys like Aaron Wilson, who just read the NFL waiver wire and the press releases and put it out as insider info, or Jason Lockenfora and Jason Cole, who have no idea what they're talking about, except for what Mike Lombardi feeds Jason Lockenfora. Personally, I would say avoid them. I've had my own personal issues with Lockenfora. You can Google that and find those online. I don't want to get into all that, and I don't want to sit here and down people, but you can clearly read those.
Ben, I just want to let you know, hook, line, and sinker. I was hoping that you mentioned that name. Kyle knows. I cannot stand Jason Lockenfora. I don't like the guy. Every time he tweets something out, I remember several months ago, Kyle, that linebacker from the Ravens, Jason Lockenfora was the first to report he's about to sign a multi-year deal worth millions. 2 days later, the guy announces his retirement from football. Like, how stupid can you be? Ben, I'm glad you mentioned his name. I keep telling our listeners, if you have Jason Lockenfora on your Twitter, unfollow him immediately. It's just nothing but garbage that comes out of his as far as football goes.
So, there's several of us who have caught him coattailing stories and stuff like that. So, like I said, you can Google and read up all about those guys. I don't want to sit here and, spend an hour bashing them. I could.
No, I know. Hey, listen. I want to direct our listeners in the right path, but I appreciate that, Ben.
Yeah, Ben was actually in recent days going back and forth with this guy, Zenny62. They had a bet on the whole Raiders deal, and Ben has been maintaining for months, if not maybe a year now, that it's basically the deal was, at least I saw since July, basically saying that everything's finalized, just some I's that needed to be dotted and some T's that needed to be crossed. But it was pretty much a deal in place, and people were riding it out till the very end. And this guy betted him like $500 and was like trying to, I guess embarrass you. And then, I guess you exposed him, and then he blocked you on Twitter. And one thing, when you exposed him, you said check TwitterAudit.com, and he basically said that, or you had mentioned that how if you'll notice, he's got like 169,000 followers, but he gets like no likes and no retweets. So you can, I guess, understand that he's just got a bunch of fake followers that he paid for.
Yeah, that's, his name is Xenophon Abraham, and he's constantly dishonest about connections he has in the Oakland area. And a lot of this stems back to, like I said, how I got on Twitter, was sniffing out these fakes, these phonies, these frauds. And this guy was one of them. He was sitting there, parlaying fake information about the Raiders staying in Oakland to people who live in Oakland and were hopeful for that type of news and eating it up because they wanted that to happen. And so they sought out information that confirmed their own internal biases of what they wanted to happen. And this guy was right there to feed it to him. He's got something like 30 accounts on Twitter that he often tweets himself from in an effort to pretend interaction. He's got something like 80% fake followers, 169,000 followers, something like 80% of them are fake ones he bought. It's just dishonest. And so I was never going to, with the bet that I made, I actually made 4 or 5 of them on that because there was a bunch of them that were in there. I was never going to keep that money for myself. With any of the bets I make on Twitter, I always give the money to charity. And this guy is, one of the first ones to just completely welch on it. So I went ahead and made the donation anyway, and I'll have my attorney get a hold of it for the money.
Nice.
Ben, do you have any info on the Jimmy Garoppolo news? I know you said Schefter's super credible, and I think he's been saying for at least the past couple of weeks that there's no shot in heck that the Patriots are going to trade him, not even if the Browns offered the number 1 overall pick, if I'm understanding him correctly on that. Do you have any info on that? Does that seem to hold true?
Yes, that is more or less in line. Any player can be had for a price. There's a price on everyone. It may not be a realistic price, but there's a price tag on every player in the league, up to and including guys like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if you want to trade 6 first-round draft picks, I'm sure the Packers will listen. But, you know, I mean, realistic price tags as far as that kind of stuff goes is a little bit different. Now, the Patriots are asking for multiple firsts and multiple other picks for Jimmy Garoppolo, which is, you know, as we all know, utterly ridiculous for a guy who's 90 passes thrown. You know, the Browns have offered. They've made a couple of offers. And, you know, the prevailing consensus around the league around the time of the Combine was that they thought the Browns were going to pull it off. The Browns had the ammo. They figured the Browns would pull it off and get Jimmy Garoppolo. But as time has worn on, we've seen that the Patriots have remained steadfast with that absurd price tag. And I would say that it is highly unlikely is probably the best way to put it. Nothing is impossible, but I would put it highly unlikely that Jimmy Garoppolo leaves New England, at least this year.
Staying on that subject, and now what do they do about Brock Osweiler? There was immediately when he was acquired, there was rumblings that several teams inquired about him. Is anything going on in that front, or is Brock Osweiler going to be a Cleveland Brown this coming season?
Well, it's looking more and more like he will be a Cleveland Brown, at least through OTAs. The idea when Cleveland did this, which by the way is a brilliant move, I think folks, the average fan doesn't understand the difference between cap room and actual team cash flow. And
right.
So what the Browns did, because they have to meet the cap floor, was acquire that contract and get a draft pick for doing it, just like you see in the NBA all the time. And so what they're willing to do is they're willing to trade Osweiler for another pick and eat some of the cash in there as well. So if you've got a team that's cash strapped that needs to meet a cap floor, or a team that's just wildly needs to meet the cap floor, well, you know, burn another draft pick, acquire the Osweiler contract, you meet that, and then you're good to go. So a team like the 49ers would seem like an obvious target, and they had some talks back and forth and tried to do that, you know, to move Osweiler there and meet the floor and all that kind of stuff. And the Browns would eat some of the cash and get a pick back. But ultimately, that stuff kind of fell apart after the Hoyer signing. So, and Hoyer and Barkley signing, excuse me. So, you know, I don't know. Cleveland's going to have a heck of a time trying to move him unless they agree to eat certain portions of the cash. Which is the hang-up. So I would say that he's probably a Brown, but it's, you know, it's still up in the air. Teams are still kind of nibbling out there to see what they can do. You know, the thing about Osweiler is he has the 6th highest winning percentage of any quarterback that's currently in the NFL. So that's, you know, that's an absurd number. It also proves the ridiculousness of that number, but some teams pay attention to that kind of stuff. And so there is a market for him were the contract right.
Hey Ben, I just had one of your tweets up on the screen. Going to pull it up again. You had said that you're getting a sniff of where these QBs will go. And you said that you think you have a very strong inclination that Trubisky's going to go to the Jets, Watson the Saints, Mahomes the Browns, and Kaiser the Bears. And in another tweet, you had said that the Jets are likely to draft a first-round quarterback for the first time since Mark Sanchez, and that they're very high on both Trubisky and Watson. Do you care to elaborate on that?
Well, I think that's pretty much it. That's all it is. It's fit to print there. If you want me, I mean, you know, they have a lot of interest in Watson and Trubisky. They are leaning heavily towards taking one of those two there. And from my indications, from what I'm told, they lean heavily towards Trubisky over Watson. I don't, nothing is impossible again. You know, everything is fluid as we talked about, but, and nothing is finalized at this point. Teams generally don't finalize until about 2 weeks before the draft in terms of what they're going to do. But, you know, at this point, it looks like, based on what I've heard, that they're going to take one of those two.
Nothing with Kaiser. I mean, they had him with a private workout. I think that McCagnum scouted him in person a couple times during the season. Do they have at least any surface level interest in him, or is that just kind of doing their due diligence?
Well, it's a combination of both. There is some interest, but it's more about due diligence because they already have a project quarterback. Well, they have 2 project quarterbacks on the roster. You know, they need somebody who's close to being ready now. You know, they need a guy who fits what they want to do, you know, on the offense there, and a guy's close to being ready now. And, you know, while Kaiser has tools and upside and all that kind of stuff, you know, in the end, he's not a guy who's going to be able to jump in and play this season, and probably not a guy you want trying to jump in and play next season. season either. There are some additional questions about whether or not he's a guy that, wants to play football or sees it as a means to an end. And if you look at, interviews that he's had, if you've talked to him, it kind of comes across that way. And that's not a knock on Kaiser. I understand guys out there trying to feed your family or, pay for debts that your family has or, use generational changing money to do what you can do. But for teams making a multi-million-dollar investment in a guy, you want to know that he's heart and soul about football and not just trying to cash a paycheck and raise his family status.
Ben, this kind of reminds me of the 2011 draft, with the exception of Cam Newton. I mean, the quarterbacks are kind of lackluster in my opinion. I remember Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert, Christian Ponder all going in the first round, and none of them really amounted to anything. To me, it kind of is a similar vibe this year's draft. I just don't see I see like the 2011 draft that a lot of these teams are reaching for a quarterback when they really weren't first-round prospects. With the exception of Cam Newton, as of course. How do you feel about that? Would you give anyone a first-round grade if you had to be GM for a day? Or,
my spreadsheet, which I do every year, is and has all the grades and stuff dating back as long as I've been doing this, sitting out there. It's my pinned tweet on Twitter. I would not. I don't have a first round grade in this draft. I have a bunch of second round grades on these guys. I hate to do the quote unquote round grade thing, but that's kind of the way to look at it. Is this guy a 4-year player with a 5th-year contract option? Are these guys are they ready to play day one? That kind of thing. And so I don't have a day one starter in this draft. That's probably a better way to put it. I think Trubisky's fairly close, but I think he tops out as an Andy Dalton type in the NFL. That's my comparison for him. I think it's pretty apropos comparison, all said and done. Looking around, you got a bunch of other project type guys. I compared Deshaun Watson to Alex Smith, another low velocity passer, thin frame, got a little bit of mobility, coming out of a tempo offense that's one read and run. Had the winner label on him in college. I mean, all those things are things Alex Smith has, and everybody talks about Deshaun Watson as well. I think people forget Alex Smith was something like 22-1 as a starter at college. But looking at those guys, they're actually fairly similar. I know people are like, well, I saw Watson throw it deep. Well, I saw Alex Smith throw it deep in college too. But in the end, the radar gun doesn't lie. So when you come back and you get 49 miles per hour on Deshaun Watson, that's troubling. And then, like I said, he's a lot of one read and run tempo type stuff. Same offense we saw Taj Boyd come out of and put up those kind of numbers and have big wins too. So I don't think that – I think people are seeing he beat Bama and running with it rather than what did he really do overall in terms of did he elevate the talent on this offense or did it elevate him? If we look back at quarterbacks that have beaten Alabama since Cam Newton, since you put that name up, that list is littered with NFL never were's. Johnny Manziel, Chad Kelly, the kid before Kelly, I can't think of his name right now, was Tyler Russell or whatever. You had Jordan Jefferson, beating Alabama. I mean, the list of people who beat Alabama is not good. So that's hardly a barometer for measuring good quarterback play. I think people have kind of jumped and seized on that, and they really need to take a step back and say, hey, does this guy have the tools to make it in the NFL?
Ben, so Tyrod Taylor, reworked his contract. He's on the books for the next 2 years. Obviously, the Bills coaching staff wanted to retain him. There was words that maybe Whaley wasn't as high on him. It's fair to say that the Bills, they love Tyrod Taylor for this year, or at least like him, but maybe don't view him as the long-term option, and they're not committed to him for the long term. And you had said that the Bills have interest in Nate Peterman. Any other quarterbacks that the Bills might have interest in?
Well, if he becomes available, if the Denver Broncos, get Tony Romo, they would be interested in acquiring Trevor Siemian as well. They were going to get rid of Tyrod Taylor. It was Rick Dennison who came in and lobbied them to keep him, said, I've worked with Tyrod before. We can work with him again. We'll make it work. Just, give me a couple of years and I'll show you. So Rick Dennison really vouched for Tyrod Taylor. And I think Rick Dennison's offense actually, much as I hate it, actually appeals to Tyrod's skill set. Tyrod struggles in the middle of the short game with, accurate passes and timing. He's got a great deep ball and he runs the ball well. So, Rick Dennison running that boot action with a lot of fades and, and out routes, deep outs and stuff like that, I think will play to Tyrod's strengths. help keep that offense humming there. He's really just not a fit for your generic West Coast offense. That's a lot of timing and short over the middle stuff, but outbreaking and deep stuff, Tyrod can hit. So I think I think the Bills made the right decision long term.
Well, Ben, I got to ask you, man. I know the free agency, you like getting into that. There's a guy on the open market, and a lot of teams need a linebacker, and that's one Zach Brown. And we thought, Kyle and I were kind of fooled. We thought that he was going to get the big contract. And really, the linebacker market has been lackluster at best, besides what Dante Hightower and Jamie Collins have gone. What about Zach Brown? He's a Pro Bowl linebacker. I know the numbers might be a little skewed in his case. Is it still Oakland? Is it still Miami? I mean, there's now rumors that there might be several other teams that are interested.
Well, there are, and including Kansas City of all teams. But Miami thought they had him, and then they got time to start talking numbers, and the numbers that he wants are not the numbers that they want. And that's kind of how it's been on his whole tour. He wants the big contract, and other teams just aren't as sold. Zach, I think he's a quality linebacker, don't get me wrong, but in the modern NFL, nickel and dime are almost base packages now. There's just not as much room for linebackers as there were 3 or 4 of them, depending on what alignment you come with, a 34 or 43, whatever. So there's not as many linebacker things, and the market is shrunk. And then you look at guys coming out of college. Well, you can replace these guys for cheaper. You can get a Hassan Reddick on a rookie deal rather than pay exorbitant amounts of money to a Zach Brown, and wind up with something that's significantly more cost effective. So a lot of the modern NFL, a lot of negotiating now is about cost efficacy. What am I going to get in return for giving this guy this contract versus what I can do in the draft, or what I have on my roster. So teams that need to meet the floor are more willing to give guys contracts. But there was some advice passed to me a couple of years ago, and it said that A plus and A players don't make free agency. B players make free agency and they get A plus contracts, and that's kind of what we're seeing here is a known B player that's seeking an A plus contract, and teams aren't biting.
Yeah. Now let me ask you a question. In your opinion, do you think he's got to settle for another 1-year deal, kind of a prove-it contract? Because, I mean, obviously the Pro Bowl and all the numbers are great, but I'm sure a lot of GMs and scouting experts, pro personnel experts, probably point to that Pittsburgh game where Le'Veon Bell ran all over him, and he kind of looked like he didn't want to be there. And, of course, the Miami game, the second one when he was active, that's kind of like, well, both times both these running backs ran over 200 yards on you. I mean, what do you say for that?
Well, that's the thing that anybody could point to is like if you can't hold up in both phases of the game, then you can't be a guy we can have. Like when I was talking earlier and I said nickel is base now. Well, your linebackers that you have on the field at that point have to be able to stuff the run. They got to be able to do both, because at that point, you're in nickel alignment, you're in a lighter set, and so teams are going to be more apt to run on that if they can, and if they discover that they're able to do that, then they're going to keep repeating it until you can't stop it. The Denver Broncos saw that against the Oakland Raiders in the first game last year when they ran the same running play 10 plays in a row in the second half on them because they just couldn't stop the run. Linebackers could stop the run at one point. So you have to have that, and if he's perceived as a liability that way, teams aren't going to pay up that big contract. Now, he doesn't have to necessarily go to a 1-year prove-it deal, but if he doesn't, he's going to be signing with a team like San Francisco that's not necessarily going to be a contender for a few years and is looking to overpay just to meet cap floor.
Hey, Ben, so this is a show about 4 teams, the AFC East. In terms of draft buzzings or just news in general, we've heard for a while now that the Dolphins are trying to rework and give Jarvis Landry a new deal. You have any inside scoops on what these 4 teams are trying to do that you want to break on the show right now?
Well, we talked a little bit about the quarterback situation in the draft with the Jets. The Jets are a team that's, I think, in more disarray than people realize. The message from the head coach isn't really resonating in the locker room. They switched offensive coordinators. It's a team that's had a window for a second there, and that window seemed to prematurely close. And now they're back in a quote-unquote rebuild, or it looks like they're in a bit of a rebuild, rework. So, I think getting the young quarterback that you want, establishing your roster is important for them. I think it's the right move. I think they're headed in the right direction now. Whether or not Bowles survives that remains to be seen. You look at the Bills. I think they went out and got the right head coach. I think what McDermott can do, I think, can be a good move. I don't know that Rick Dennison's the greatest offensive coordinator. Well, I know he's not the greatest offensive coordinator. I don't know that he's the right fit there. But they got a quarterback who's familiar with him in Tyrod, so we'll be able to, we'll see pretty quick. I think they got the right pieces. Just in terms of the draft, there's several different directions the Bills could go. I really don't have a good pulse on that in the first round. Like I said, they looked at Peterman as a quarterback, and I think he fits the mold of typically what Dennison looks for. If you look back at his history and you look back at guys like Simeon, that kind of thing, he kind of fits that mold. So, I wouldn't say that Peterman's a first-round pick by any stretch, but you could see him in the third or fourth round if he's available there going to the Bills. The Patriots, of course, they look like they're loading up to, give Brady a farewell tour. I guess Bill Belichick wasn't content with winning Super Bowls, decided to start winning free agency too. There's several different directions they could go. A lot of people have kind of penciled in Christian McCaffrey, although I hear that they're going to look along the offensive line in the draft. So we'll see. I heard that Belichick likes Garrett Bowles. I know the Broncos like Garrett Bowles as well. I don't know that he'll make it to either one of those, to those picks, but I know they like him a lot. The Dolphins. I have a little bit of a relationship with Adam Gase from his time here in Denver, where I live. He was sorry to see Vance Joseph go because Vance was a guy that helped identify talent on the roster, last year. They're going to be converting the defense a little bit, and I would expect them to be looking at defense early in the draft.
All good stuff right there, Ben. I'm telling you, man, you need to come on more often. We really need to get you on quarterly at least during the year. We need to get that promise from you, man, because everything that you said tonight was just excellent.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope hope that's news to people, and I'm not just regurgitating things they already know. My goal is to to inform or be a conduit to information. So, anytime you guys want to have me, just let me know.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Ben, I got one really quick question, then we're going to let you scoot on out of here. It's pretty funny, and a guy like me that likes debates and stuff likes to watch it, but you probably you actually have a lot of credibility, you have a big following, but you probably respond to the trolls more than anyone else. And I read in that article that I cited earlier that you were a debater when you were younger, and like that's probably why you like to debate so much, is because you're always winning. But man, you always eviscerate these guys, and I'm thinking like, I wonder why he spends so much time doing that. He doesn't need to respond to this Joe Schmo.
Well, part of it is a desire to be hyper interactive. I built the account, the Twitter following on a one-to-one, retail level, responding to questions, building up a following that way. I didn't just, suddenly wake up with a massive following because I had a giant platform behind me or anything, So I think there's a sense of obligation to respond to everybody, whether it's positive or negative, or try to anyway. And then I think the other part of that is I think people enjoy the show. I think, I personally, some people enjoy seeing that may not have the capacity to do that kind of battle over social media, enjoy seeing some of these trolls kind of quote unquote get theirs. So, I think there's an entertainment value to it. I think I probably overdo it. If we're being honest, but I think that's what it is really. It's an entertainment value thing for me. Like maybe this is the troll that's gonna zing me or pique my intellectual curiosity, but it never is.
So definitely you love the challenge, and that's pretty funny. Hey, listen, Ben, I got to tell you, man, I got a big fan of yours. I love when you go at it with people. That's the way it should be, man. You are a man of the people, and like you said, maybe some people can't articulate the right way. You're definitely representing the masses out there that hate these trolls. You know what, though, Ben? I got to tell you, I don't even respond to them. I don't even respond to them. And that's sometimes the best medicine, because sometimes they're looking for a response. If you just don't give it to them, that hurts them even more.
But when you do get Gary to respond, you got him.
Yeah, hey, listen, you're going to get the fury. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, in the end, we're all just, we're all just dudes talking sports. So I guess, for me, I think the thing is with these guys is, it irritates me that they're taking up time that I could be talking with somebody else. Honestly, that's probably what it is.
I was dying laughing yesterday. I was, checking out in the Costco line, and this guy's begging and pleading, "Ben, please don't block me. Please, Ben."
Yeah, I don't even know. I get to a point where like the negativity gets ridiculous, or if the troll gets redundant, or if they go back to, as soon as they lose ground by reverting to something or whatever else, and there's no new territory to be covered, then I just block them and move on. And that's what happened. This guy started calling me an idiot or whatever. Well, okay, you got nothing new, you're blocked. And then he was like, "Oh crap, I didn't want to be," well, you shouldn't have started that way.
Yeah. All right, that is the great Benjamin Allbright on Twitter at AllbrightNFL, and that's with 2 L's, Allbright with 2 L's. I actually went to Allbright College. That's with 1 L, but not to be confused.
Which actually is a relative of mine. Allbright University is actually a relative of mine, started that, Jacob Allbright. So.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
We do spell our name differently across the – Allbrights all spell their name differently, but we're all related, so.
That's pretty cool, man. Kyle, what a small world.
Small world, I'm going to tell you. But isn't it it's Allbright College, though? It's not considered a university.
Allbright College, whatever they call it. I can't remember if it's university or college, whatever it is. But yeah, it's there in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, good old D3 football.
And listen, are you a Broncos fan? Is that your team?
I'm actually, don't tell anybody here in Denver this, a Kansas City fan, but I work here in Denver, so I work here in Denver, so I keep that under wraps.
Our dad is a diehard Chiefs fan.
Just got him a Travis Kelce shirt the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I turned 37 this year. And so for me, like that moment when Okoye hit Atwater really crystallized my love of football. And I happened to be living in Kansas City at the time. So
the Nigerian Nightmare. Nice. Good stuff.
All right, Ben, it was fun. We hope to hear from you some other time. All right.
Absolutely, guys. Take care.
Take care, Ben. Again, that's Ben Allbright on Twitter at AllbrightNFL. That his name is spelled with 2 L's. Next, we'll bring on our Dolphins contributor to the show. This guy has a wealth of knowledge in terms of X's and O's, a wealth of knowledge in terms of the Miami Dolphins. That's none other than the Travis Wingfield. Hey, Travis, I don't know what the deal is. I can pull it up on my phone, but for some darn reason, I cannot pull up your Perfectville articles on either Google Chrome or Internet Explorer on this computer. I don't know why it's blocked for some reason. I don't think it has anything to do with the website. But anyway, I was going to see if you published your William Hayes piece yet.
Yeah, that one's out. And then I did one today where I basically, on my lunch hour, transcribed Adam Gaze's, I don't know if you call it a press conference or whatever it was. He spoke today for a little bit, and I kind of put together some thoughts on that. So those couple of pieces are up, and then work on some other things as well. But yeah, the William Hayes one is up.
Transcribing, that seems like tedious work, man.
It's not too bad. I mean, I'm pretty fast typer, so it comes out quickly.
I heard you typing during the last episode of the Finalysis, so I get that you are a fast typer. So tell us about the William Hayes article. I want to let the article do the talking. I'm sure you got a boatload of gifts in there, but give us a gist of it.
Yeah, basically just looking at what he did last year with the Rams. You can go back and look at previous years for players, but I think the best way to get a sense is what they did the year prior. I mean, it's a what have you done for me lately type of league. So I looked at some of his 2016 tape, notably the Dolphins game, a couple of Seahawks games. I wanted to see how he defended teams that could run the ball pretty well, because I think that's what he's going to come to Miami for. And he stacks up pretty well against the run. He's got violent hands. He's savvy when it comes to leverage and kind of playing the flow of the play, if you will. He's not one of those guys that tries to get upfield and rush the quarterback every single play, despite it being a running down. So I think that's why he came here. I'm still not really sure what position he'll play. He does play a variety of different techniques along the Rams defensive line, whether it was the 5, 7, or 9. He can get out wide sometimes. But I think he'll come here and probably, he'll play a lot of base run downs, and maybe he'll spell Andre Branch in some pass rush situations as well. I'm not really sure what their plan is, and kick inside as well on their nickel rush package on the defensive tackle spot. So he's a versatile guy, good run defender, and hopefully a good locker room guy, despite his weird anti-dinosaur beliefs.
That is something to be
He's
said.
out there.
Yeah, he is definitely a weird puppy, but I'm watching tape on him, and I watch him come off the left side a lot.
Yeah.
And that's primarily with Cam Wake. I understand that, he's probably going to be the run stuffer. I'm thinking that Andre Branch is probably going to get more burn than both Haynes and Wake combined, just because it seems like he's more versatile than both those guys. William Haynes is more of a run stuffer. Cam Wake, obviously, is the pass rush specialist. So I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like he played it. The few times I saw him line up on the right side were very few and far between with the LA.
Yeah, I didn't see it at all. I try to watch the guys because a few of the guys we signed played against the AFC East team. So I try to watch them play the Jets, Bills, and Patriots as much as I can. And one of the games was that Jets game. And like you said, I didn't see him on the right side at all.
Yeah.
You know, everyone wants to make a big deal out of the player starting and who's starting, but who gives a damn? As long as you're getting snaps and you know you're effective, I don't really care.
There was one game I watched him where Eugene Sims got hurt, and Eugene Sims, Kyle, Travis replaces Robert Quinn during running downs a lot, especially when they run their heavy package. And the game where Quinn was out and Sims was out, I saw Haynes go to the right side. But like I said, it was only for a series or two. It wasn't anything much. He's primarily on the left side.
And he gets a lot of spell work too with the Rams. I think it was either Sims, and I think they brought on Ethan Westbrooks a few times too. And he would kind of rotate series by series.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what
they had a great rotation. And listen, if you get a defense lineman from that Rams team, I mean, that was one of the few bright spots on that Rams team. So, you know, you'd be happy to get any one of those guys.
And you mentioned Mike Waffle too last week on the show, and that's
I had to, you know, Kyle mentioned I had to plug my Buffalo Bills in there. Guilty.
It's too good.
Of course.
You know, I was going to tell you guys, I was just listening on the way. I just got back to the house and I'm in the car. I just finished up the last episode. And Gary, you were going over your draft bust. And I was really into that part of the show because there was 4 of your guys with Dolphins. And
do you agree with that?
I was going to tell you, I was with you all the way, but I was going to tell you, as much as I love you, man, you're a little bit outside your mind putting Juwan James ahead of Ted Ginn and Jason Allen and Jamar Fletcher.
No, you don't get it. They're not ahead. I keep explaining this to people. The higher you're up on the list, that's better. You're not the worst. So number one would be
the worst.
No. Ted Ginn is the best of the worst. You understand?
But you had Juwan James ahead of Juwan James 16th.
Yes. So like I said, Ted Ginn Jr. is definitely better than Juwan James. No one's going to deny that.
Well, Kyle mentioned he didn't know Jason Allen, and I can verify for you right now that Jason Allen was probably one of the most frustrating Dolphins players of all time. I think his biggest claim to fame was in the 2004 SEC season. There was a picture of Ronnie Brown just annihilating him and burying him about 6 feet deep at Volunteer Stadium there in Tennessee.
Well, I think
see if
from here on out, my list only has 2 more Dolphins on it, and I think you could guess who they are. But
I know one.
I'll save it for the latter part. This list is mostly Jets and Bills, and obviously the Patriots are rarely on this list.
Yeah, that's true. Kyle mentioned about Juwan James and how last year he was September and that Tennessee game as well. I think was in October. He was a train wreck. You mentioned it. He got benched actually for allowing a strip sack at the end of that Cleveland game. And they brought on, I can't remember who they brought on, but they brought on a different right tackle because he gave up a strip sack with like 20 seconds to go in a tie game. So they brought him out of the game, and he was terrible.
Did he even help? Did he even bother to help Tannehill up? Am I remembering that correctly?
I think you're right. I think he was just like, forget it. He's good.
So hold on. Let me ask you a question. You would put Juwan James ahead of Ted Ginn?
Yeah, man.
Really?
Well, Ted Ginn, it was more the implication with Ted Ginn. I mean, he was a bad player in Miami. He got a lot better at different places he went, but
I mean, at the time, this is my train of thought. Chad Pennington was the quarterback. You get a deep threat. Chad Pennington can't throw the ball down the field.
Pennington actually wasn't on the roster yet. That was
he wasn't. Okay.
That was 2007 was when they took Ginn. So the reason I hate Ted Ginn so much, well, besides, like I said, he's not a good player, but hindsight's 2020. But Brady Quinn was supposed to be the heir apparent to Dan Marino, and we all thought if he made it to number 9 that year, he was going to be the pick. And so when you heard the commissioner's name just go Ted Ginn, it was so deflating. And then to hear Cam Cameron take the podium and get
here's my other thing, that Ted Ginn was supposed to be a first-round pick. Juwan James, you could look at every draft analyst during that time. They never had Juwan James even in the first round.
Yeah, you're right.
He was a second to third round pick. So it's amazing the Dolphins even reached that high for him. And I remember a game as clear as day. It was the 2015 season. Jawan James, he gets beat bad by Jerry Hughes, and he sticks out his leg and trips him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's just not a quality player. And to go in the first round to get a guy who was projected to be in the third round blew my mind. So that's where my train of thought came from.
I think his career arc has taken a bit of a unique path since 2014. He was actually playing, like you mentioned in the show.
His rookie year was good.
But then Brandon Albert goes down, and they try to put him to left tackle. And if you know his college career, he played every single game at Tennessee from freshman to senior year at right tackle. He never played the left side, and he came in the left side and was a train wreck. So, and then 15, he came back and didn't have a good year either, and then got hurt. So yeah, you're right. And then last year, I think we were all ready to bench him, and then he got benched, came back kind of like Byron Maxwell, and played pretty well when they were winning games.
Yeah. And here's my other point, and I made this to Kyle, and I'm going to make it to you. If I told you you have your choice between Jawan James, Marcus Cannon, Brandon Shell, or Jordan Mills, you're not excited about any of those, but you might not even pick Jawan James, who's a first-round pick.
Marcus Cannon was really kind of a beast.
I'm saying Marcus Cannon, who's he was a fifth-round pick, played better than the first-round pick. And listen, I got to tell you, Brandon Shell towards the end of the year played really well. And, Jordan Mills in the run game is definitely better than Jawan James. I wouldn't say in the pass game, but that's not – I mean, they're both pretty bad.
Does he do anything well, Travis, in your opinion, Jawan James?
He holds well.
He had some moments last year. Like I said, when they had the Fab Five or whatever you want to call it on the offensive line, and everyone seemed to play a lot better at that time. He played really well during that stretch. But yeah, like Gary mentioned, he's got some stretches where he commits a lot of penalties. I think he wiped out a couple of touchdowns actually on penalties last year, so that wasn't very good. But he does do pretty well in pass pro when he's right. I mean, sometimes it goes wrong for any player, but that's his best assets is pass pro.
All right, but Jamar Fletcher, no argument there. Jason Allen, no argument there.
I had a story for you on Jamar Fletcher too. That rookie year of his, we actually had, I think, so it was 2002 was his rookie, or maybe it was his second year, 2002. We had the division all but wrapped up. We had to beat the Patriots in Foxborough in Week 17, and they had an 11-point lead. With like 4 minutes to go, and Brady chucked one deep, and Jamar Fletcher tackled the receiver and got the pass interference to the 1 yard line. And the Patriots ended up coming back, and then the Jets, I think, won later in the day and knocked the Dolphins out of the playoffs. So that's my memory of Jamar Fletcher. But I was like, 13, 14 years old at the time.
Now, Kyle, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a huge trend in getting these small athletic corners. The Bills drafted Antoine Winfield, who was a pretty good player in the first round. And I remember as clear as day, it was the 2002 season. After the game's over with, Antoine Winfield, Jamar Fletcher, they go and they're talking to each other. And Antoine Winfield, Kyle, was a small guy. He was listed at 5'9". And I remember he had a good 2 inches on Jamar Fletcher. I said, how tiny is this guy? He was just a small corner. And, they're both Big Ten guys. Jamar Fletcher, I believe, came from Wisconsin. And I know Antoine Winfield came from Ohio State. They're talking at the game. I'm like, this is one of the tiniest players I've ever seen. He was a first-round pick. Just wasn't a good corner.
Another thing that we hated about Jamar Fletcher was, Dave famously once said that, what can Trent Green do that Jay Fiedler can't? And he hitched his wagon to Jay Fiedler for so many years. And Drew Brees was sitting right there on the board. And a lot of Dolphins fans thought we were going to take Drew Brees, but, going Jamar Fletcher when you already had Pat Surtain and Sam Madison on the roster too. So it didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was a very puzzling pick, and that Dolphins secondary was stacked.
Yeah, it was.
They had a great safety. They had Brock Marion. I forget who the other safety was. He's help me out, Travis.
I want to say it was I'm forgetting his name too.
He was a big guy. He was like 223 pounds. He was a big safety. I can't forget his.
I want to say it was like not Arturo. Something. It was something. I don't know. I can't remember.
I got to pull up the
Arturo Gatti.
I got to pull up the 2001 Dolphins roster.
Hey, is this the hit you guys were talking about?
Yeah, it is. It gets me jacked every time.
Were you a Ronnie Brown fan?
Yeah, I liked Ronnie and Ricky. Obviously Ricky's my guy, but Ronnie was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked to hear that Kevin, the defensive coordinator of Perfectville on the latest episode of the Finalysis, he said that Ricky Williams, my guy, University of Texas, has done more for the Dolphins. There's maybe more valuable to the Dolphins than Cameron Wake. That really shocked me.
Yeah, I was surprised too. It's a pretty tough argument. Maybe you guys can have fun with this question too. The question was, who's the best player in your organization's history that was acquired any way besides the draft? So a free agent or a trade or whatever it might be.
Oh,
and that was our question. Those are the two guys we came down to, and it's a pretty good argument either way. I mean, I think if Ricky doesn't miss 2 years or 2.5 full, some 40 games out of his prime, he's probably a top 10 rushing yards of all time. So. Pretty impressive stats for him.
Tough for Curtis Martin for the Jets. That's easy.
Yeah. There you go.
I had to think about it for a little bit, but then I was like, oh wait, easy. Once I thought of his name.
Yeah, I'm thinking hard. I mean, it's not that easy when you think about it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Hall of Fame players with the Bills, and I mean a lot of those are in-house guys.
How'd you guys get Flutie? You didn't
Jim Kelly,
but Flutie wouldn't be our top.
Gary doesn't like Doug Flutie.
What are you talking about? I like Flutie. I mean, I burned his jersey this past season.
They still likes him.
I still like
my
the
point.
guy. I was trying to make a good order around the Bills season. I thought that would help break the Flutie curse.
It worked for a couple games.
It worked for the Arizona game. After that,
hey, you guys shut out New England in Foxborough, man. Jacoby Brissett.
You're absolutely right. Brisket.
Hey, Travis. While Gary's trying to think of that, this is a loaded tight end class in the draft. The Jets, obviously, they don't have a darn tight end to speak of on their roster. The Dolphins, you certainly like to see them upgrade the tight end position. They lost Deion Sims. Jordan Cameron is not coming back. Fasano, I actually like Fasano for what he does, but he's a blocker. He's not a terrible receiver, but he is what he is. New England just added Dwayne Allen, so they probably won't draft a tight end. I mean, maybe if they're looking for a long-term option to replace Gronk. The Bills could maybe use another tight end. Gary said he would love O.J. Howard at 10. Let's start to talk about the tight ends because I don't have a tight end guy coming on the show in the next couple weeks as presently constituted. But there's so many good tight ends. Travis, how much of the tight ends have you watched?
Yeah, actually quite a bit because before all the free agency and trading went down, that was kind of one of the positions I thought Miami would target pretty high. And obviously the two first-round guys you mentioned, O.J. Howard and David Njoku, I don't see any holes in O.J. Howard's game. I mean, seeing a guy that can run out of the almost like a wing T type of formation they run there, and he splits out as the lead blocker, and Jalen Hurts from Alabama follows him down the field, and he just clears the way. It's pretty awesome to see. And then he's got big playability as they showed in the national championship game 2 years ago. But for some reason, Lane Kiffin didn't want to use him in the passing, or not. Lane Kiffin was it? Yeah, Lane Kiffin this year.
Kiffin.
They didn't want to use him in the passing game as much this year, and he was more of a blocker. But it's not like that passing ability or receiving ability is not there. So he's a perfect polished tight end. Signed, sealed, delivered day one. He's your starting guy. David Njoku has, that Eric Ebron, Vernon Davis athleticism. He's just a freak of nature. I mean, I actually posted a picture of his if you see his Twitter profile picture, the guy's carved out of just stone. I mean, Michelangelo couldn't have done it better than what he has. So an athletic freak that he can accelerate in a hurry. And his blocking has been called into question. But the thing I like about Njoku's blocking is that he's willing. He might not be that good at it, and he's got he doesn't really have much drive from his lower body as an inline blocker, but he's willing to try. I think that he'll learn and get better at it as time goes on. And then some other guys you like, my guy Daniel Jeremiah loves that Adam Shaheen from what is that college?
Ashland.
Thank you. I would never have got that. He's 275 and 6'7". He runs pretty well, and he's pretty cool to watch. But I don't really have a whole lot of tape available on him, obviously. But he's an interesting guy. I like Evan Ingram a lot. I think Jeremy Sprinkle's another guy that you can do a lot of things with.
That's my boy right there, Jeremy Sprinkle. I think you could get him in the 5th round.
You think so?
I think he'll fall. Especially there's character concerns. I mean, he stole that gift card from the supermarket. I mean, at least he went for the big gift card. He went for the $450 one, but
What are you gonna do, man? So
I think there might be, and like you said, the tight ends, there's not like a run on tight ends. I've never seen a draft where, hey, there's a run on tight ends. There's a run on corners. There's a run on wide receivers, offensive tackles. But, usually tight ends are spread few and far between. And there's not a lot of teams that are in desperation for a tight end.
No, I hear you. And everyone gets so enamored with the fact that at the combine, all these tight ends blew up with these physical numbers in terms of speed and how fluid they are. But I'm like, Kyle mentioned Anthony Fasano. I'm a sucker for tight ends like that, man. Like the Dolphins wanted to get 6 offensive linemen on the field at times last year, but you put Anthony Fasano out there, and that's your 6 offensive lineman. I mean, the guy graded out as the number 1 run blocker.
Do you think he's a better run blocker than Jawan James? Or is that a stretch though?
I might be. I haven't actually got a chance to look at him closely yet. I mean, I remember him back with the Dolphins, but I haven't really paid attention to his career in Tennessee, other than what PFF tells you, which can be a crapshoot. But I watched a little bit of his game, that red zone replay the other day on Sunday because I was having football withdrawals, and I was watching him handle Malcolm Smith over in Oakland there quite a few times, leading DeMarco Murray some big runs. So I mean, I like what he does. But speaking of tight ends that can do that kind of stuff. George Kittle from Iowa is another one of those guys that he comes into the league day one, and he becomes a guy that you can run 12 personnel with and some run heavy packages, and he can leak out and do some things for you in the passing game too. So just a few guys that I like. I'm obviously probably forgetting some because I don't have a list in front of me, but a tight end class is pretty special this year.
What's that kid from Ole Miss that had a 4.42, which is that's Amari Cooper's 40 right there, and that's faster than Sammy Watkins and Odell Beckham's 40.
And that's Evan Ingram. That's what scares me about him is because he came into the Senior Bowl and he weighed 227. So how am I going to play that guy in line?
Yeah. It sounds like Kyle. Remember the guy the Bills had a couple years ago? In fact, I think he might have been on Miami too. Doran Dickerson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy ran like a 4.42, but he was only 227 pounds. I mean, he wasn't a freak athlete. I think he had a 41-inch vertical, but sometimes the numbers don't translate over to the game. So I said, always don't get enamored with the numbers. Look at the tape. I would say look at the tape. And Kyle, Travis, I will take a tight end who makes a few catches a game, who's a great blocker in the run game, could really help that out, rather than a tight end who's just an awesome athlete that can make a bunch of plays. Like Jordan Cameron from a couple years in Cleveland. When he had that phenomenal season. Guy couldn't block worth a lick.
Yeah.
So you knew when he was out in the field that either he's gonna get beat, or you're passing the ball. You weren't fooling anyone when Jordan Cameron was out on the field.
Yeah, there wasn't a bigger critic of Jordan Cameron than me, so I'm with you all the way on that.
Oh man, he was terrible. So
he was.
I'd rather
if you're a poor run blocker, I mean, there's a good amount of receivers that are pretty good run blockers out there. We talked about Robert Woods before, Chris Hogan, amongst others in the AFC East. I mean, if one of those guys is a better blocker than you, and you're just a label at tight end just because you weigh more than them, I mean, what's the point, really? What's the point? You're just like a big receiver that's soft. I mean, you're not fooling anybody, and you're not really contributing in the run game. So what's the point? So I like to have like a versatile guy as well. Travis, do you think it'd be a reach if the Jets took O.J. Howard at 6? I think Kuiper mocked them in his latest mock draft.
I don't think it'd be a reach, but I don't know that you necessarily can get as much out of him as you would one of the defensive studs in this draft. I mean, the defense in this draft is so unbelievable that I think it would behoove the Jets to go that direction rather than Howard. But he's a safe pick. I
tell you right now, Travis, if the Jets go defense, there's going to be a riot in New Jersey and New York. They cannot go defense this year, no matter what.
I just don't know. I mean,
Jets fans are so sick and tired of them going defense.
If we take Jonathan Allen, I'm just going to cry.
I was going to ask you about that.
But before you ask him about that, Kyle, you said Mel Kiper mocked O.J. Howard?
I'm pretty sure that.
Well, guess what? He ain't going to the Jets if Mel Kiper mocked him. Never happens. His mocks are some of the worst mocks.
Hey, leave Mel Kiper alone.
Yeah, Travis likes Mel Kiper, Gary.
Remember I pointed out, I think, last year on our show about Mel Kiper mocking the Bills?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Bills, they don't usually draft outside of the top 10, so it's not hard to mock their picks. When you get in the 20s, all right, I'll give you credit if you get any of those right. But there's years, Courtney Upshaw, Jimmy Clausen. I mean, you're just watching, and you're like, he couldn't be more wrong.
Sharif Floyd, he's a top 3 pick. He's going to Oakland. And then he went somewhere in like the 20s.
Yeah.
We were at that draft too, right?
His receding hairline keeps getting worse. His mock drafts and his receding hairline keep getting worse over the years.
Oh, the shots are coming.
McShay, though. You got to give him love over McShay.
I like McShay. My favorite's Mayock. It'll always be Mayock.
Yeah, I like Mayock too. I like Daniel Jeremiah. He's my guy.
Yeah. And hasn't some people have said Mayak has fallen off a little bit in recent years. Would you agree? Was that you, Travis, that said that, or am I mistaken?
I might have retweeted at some point because I think I saw that too. I don't know what his deal is. He kind of seems like he's a little bit of Hollywood for my taste. But I do like his breakdowns. He knows what he's talking about.
Travis Wingfield, anything else? Any hot takes on your mind? Anything you want to drop on us? Tell us what we can expect on the next episode of Finalysis, upcoming articles, etc.
Are the Dolphins done in free agency, Travis? I mean,
I'm looking at. I got a whiteboard here that I kind of keep track of my stuff. So when I'm doing a podcast, I can look at it.
Can you pick that up and put it on the screen? Is that possible?
It's pretty big, so I'll try.
He doesn't have the Kyle Fahey budget. He doesn't have the whole room, the whole room whiteboard.
And it displays my terrible hand. I got like my article ideas over here that I'm going to work on, and then I got
that. Let me tell you something. That is neat compared to Kyle and I's handwriting.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
We have some of the worst handwriting ever.
I just keep it. I like to have the draft order, at the top of my head, so I have that on there, and then just kind of the Dolphins' needs and what they might do. Gary asked if they're going to make any more moves in free agency. I think if they do, I don't even know what's out there. I think the one move everyone seems to keep circling back to is trading for a cornerback, but I just don't know that they have the resources to do that.
Who would be that?
They've been linked to Tremaine Johnson a lot, and obviously I don't think the Rams even want to pay Johnson, the $16 million figure that he's owed for the franchise tag, so it would have to come with a new contract too. But I've heard Mike Tannenbaum, Adam Gase, and Chris Greer all talk about how we got to get better at winning at the line of scrimmage from the secondary, and he's talking about beating the Patriots. I mean, you watch the Patriots.
Of course.
All they do is pick you apart underneath and just death by 1,000 paper cuts. So. Xavier Howard was the first step in that process. They wanted that with Byron Maxwell, but I don't really think that's going to work out for him. And then Bobby McCain's more of a quick twitch, kind of shifty kind of guy and doesn't really handle big bodies very well. So
that's Travis's guy right there.
I know you're not a fan.
What's free agent? I mean, there's slim pickings out there. I mean, Darrelle Revis is out there. Kyle Wilson is out there. I just saw Patrick Robinson got picked up by the Eagles. My boy Altron Werner's out there, which I'm hoping that Leslie Frazier knocks on Doug Whaley's door and gets him in the building. But there's slim pickings out there, man. So you'd have to trade or draft.
Yeah, I think they're best suited just going to the draft from this point.
Which corner would you like at 22?
It's hard to say.
Would you take Sidney Jones at 22?
I don't think the Dolphins are in a position to do that right now because that's kind of a luxury pick with the injury if he's going to miss the year. I mean, I love Sidney Jones.
Dolphins are in win now mode.
Yeah. They got – well, I mean, they are, but they also have enough holes that they have to – you can't just hope.
Yeah, like the Patriots – I mean, if you're the Patriots, you could take Sidney Jones and say, hey, listen, man, we're still going to be damn good, and this kid's going to be good for us years down the road too, so he could take that risk.
That would make a lot of sense. He's my top corner. And you asked, what I would like at corner. It's hard to say because the Dolphins have, the guys that they like and the style they like, and it's usually a big physical guy like a Desmond King from Washington. He's a big physical player, but I like Trey White from LSU.
Isn't it Kevin King?
Yes, Desmond King's the Iowa guy. Yes, you're right.
I'm even schooling you on your own Washington players. Come on, man.
Oh man,
there's too many players to think of right now. That's why I write it down. I got to get it written down.
I hope he's not a closet Cougars fan.
Oh, I am a Coug.
He's a Giants and a Jets
I thought
fan.
He was a Huskies fan.
He's a Huskies and a Cougars fan.
I was trying to sell Kyle on Luke Falk.
You can't be both. You can't root for rivals. That's terrible.
Well, I'll be going to WSU in the fall, so I'm gonna officially be a Coug. So I'll get rid of the Husky fandom right then and there.
Oh, you're going for like journalism, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. Good for you, Travis. Congrats, man.
Thanks, man.
All right. So, Travis, what can we expect? Articles upcoming this week and next episode of Finalysis.
I still got to get to Fasano, Ted Larson, Julius Thomas. Got to write them up.
I look forward to that Fasano piece.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm kind of the nerds that like the inline blocking tight ends like us. It's pretty fun. I got to add to my draft stuff, and then I got plenty of other stuff that we'll get to later. But Finalysis, we're not gonna record this week. We don't have anything to do.
Cool.
We don't have any content, but next week we'll be back and we're going to talk about kind of Adam Gaze's presser I talked about. We're going to bring up my Tannehill article again, and then hopefully get to some schedule talk. I know the Dolphins made some requests about their London game and trying to not have a bye in week 5 after the London game. So that kind of stuff, and just kind of catching up and some news and notes.
We want to do a contributors draft the week before the draft, so we'd like to have you involved.
Yeah, let's do that.
Where you pick maybe a couple slots, and then we have, I don't know, several other. Maybe Miguel will have on there. Kyle,
Christian Simonelli. I
don't know. Maybe if Fahey is a good little boy, we'll let him come on and help out. But by the looks of his mock draft, Kyle, that thing was horrendous. He showed us.
Coming on next.
Dan Feeney picked 57.
yeah, I got news for you. He's not making it past 35.
Is Fahey coming on?
Hey, listen to this before you go, Travis.
Uh-oh.
Listen to how dumb this is. And I love Fahey. But he compared Mitch Trubisky to Matt Stafford.
Oh, my Lord.
Jeez.
Well, hey, listen, this is the same kid that compared Jordan Jenkins to Tom Bahali. I mean, he God bless his soul.
How old is Fahey?
I don't know.
I think he's 16 now.
Well, he's got 2 more years. Say his prayers, I'm telling you.
All right, Wingfield, take care, man, and look forward to those pieces. Tweet them over to me, and I'll retweet them, all right?
Yeah, I will, man. I appreciate it. Now, hey, put the show out this week. You didn't put it out last week. I didn't get a chance to.
I didn't put it on Twitter, and I didn't put it on YouTube because the whole computer really messed me up. All right, but don't worry. This week it'll happen. All right, Travis, take care. That's Travis_Wrights on Twitter. His co-host is KevinMD4. Finalysis, Right Travis Wright blog. Welcome to perfectville.com. And next we're going to bring on Kyle Fahey. What is going on, Kyle Fahey?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, microphone.
Get close to your
microphone, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we got to go over this.
It's literally a foot less than it was last week. And
well, at least Kyle doesn't have the lamp in the background. Like
I can turn on the lamp.
Don't you dare. Hey, listen, I'm worried about you, Fahey. This is 2 weeks in a row, and that whiteboard is blank. What's the matter? What's going on with you?
Oh, man. School takes over right now, man. It's hard to focus on the draft and stuff.
Hey, Gary, get a load of this.
Let's hear this.
It seems like it's primed for Fahey. Fahey and I were having a private conversation, and Fahey was telling me at his school they have timeout if you come to class late.
Yeah, seriously.
It's perfectly suited for him.
I hope you're not late, Fahey.
I was only late once, and it was on a bullcrap technicality. I brought a note from my dad because I woke up late. And I didn't know they didn't accept notes anymore. And my dad was already halfway down US 1. So I wasn't going to call him back. So I had to just sit there for all of my math class. And it was not fun.
So hold on, explain the timeout process real quick. Because let's get into some Jets talk after you're done with that. What happened? You just missed the class?
Yeah, if you are some teachers are lenient, but most teachers aren't. If you are not in the class through that door, by the time the final bell rings, you get 4 minutes to walk in between classes. If you're not there, they will send you to this room all the way across campus next to the old gym that we don't use anymore because it's got mold in it and they got to tear it down, and the weight room for all the jocks. So you just sit there for 55 minutes or whenever you get there. Most people don't even go. If they have a car, they just leave and then come back.
That's punishment? That sounds like a reward where I come from. You get to miss class and you get to be in the weight room?
No, you're not in the weight room. You're next to it. So all you hear is the weights going up and down, or when somebody drops the bars really loud. It's annoying and it's just not fun. And I like going to class. I like learning. So maybe that's the difference between me and you, Gary.
I don't know about a difference.
Travis liked that one.
I don't know about a difference about learning. There wasn't much learning in South Plainville High School. I got news for you. We wasn't one of the best high schools to go to. So, but anyway, Fahey, I'm a very successful guy. I didn't need much school. So,
I mean, my dad didn't go to college.
A net worth of $500,000 at 29 is pretty good.
Yeah,
I like to see your parents' checkbook compared to mine. So there you go.
Discuss that.
Anyway, I'd like to see what's happening with your whiteboard, man. I mean,
it is shameless shout-outs right now. That's all it is. That's been there for 2 weeks. There's nothing up there right now. Are
you on suicide watch? I mean, come on.
I might be. I don't know. I heard Todd Bowles' presser today. It did not help. But I did create a new mock draft. It's only one round, though. I did it for you guys.
Okay.
Dan Feeney moved up a little.
I bet he did. I bet after we all ragged on you. All right, let's see it.
All right, I'm going to – hold on. Let me put this in a new tab because I had like a million other things open.
Right.
I found out how to share my screen on here because I'm using Zoom now too. So let me just – I think that's it. There it is. Yeah. Can I scroll down on this? Yeah.
Okay, we see the let me ask you a question. How do you feel about Mitchell Trubisky being the Jets quarterback?
Well, he needs to go back to Mitch, first of all. Second, I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. Not a doubt in my mind.
Listen, he's proud of his full name, so he doesn't need to get whatever he wants to be called. That's fine.
I will not acknowledge him as Mitchell. I will not acknowledge him as that. I put this down.
I can tell you right now, he probably doesn't give a damn what Kyle Fahey thinks. So
well, that's probably true. He will be making millions in a month. So I'll be here.
Let's go through it real quick.
Yeah.
Just the AFC East picks. So you got Mitchell Trubisky at 6.
Yep.
Mike Williams to the Buffalo Bills at 10.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be opposed. Forrest Lamp at the Dolphins at number 22. I don't know. I don't know how Travis would feel about that pick.
Travis, thumbs up, thumbs down. How you feel about that? Thumbs up? Yeah. They need a guard.
Scroll down. Let's see.
And it's only first round. There's Dan Feeney.
Okay.
Now, I put him with Atlanta because when we had the show last week, the signing of Dontari Poe wasn't official. I believe I had them taking Charles Harris at the time to be like a guy on the defensive front to really make a difference. But since they got Dontari Poe, Dan Feeney, they need guard. And I think Dan Feeney's the next guard.
And let me tell you, it makes a lot of sense because
here, you just muted yourself. Gary, unmute yourself. All right, I can't hear anything. I don't know what's going on right now. Garrett, it says you're muted. Now you're unmuted.
Well, I was waiting for Kyle to step in.
No, he just sat there.
Yeah, anyway, it makes a lot of sense because Chris Chester hasn't announced whether he's going to stay or retire, so that's their right guard. So Dan Feeney would be an excellent plug-and-play guy right there. Let's go to the second round. Do you have your second round? No.
No. I only went with first. I was a little bit of the schedule. Like I said, I've been really busy, but I'd be happy to break this down pick by pick.
No,
I doubt that you would.
We're not.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get your take on every one of these guys.
I don't blame you.
But we'll definitely invite you for the mock. All right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, if you behave – you get to class on time.
Always.
Well, I don't know. You just told us over the air that you made
once.
Well, that's not always. So I don't know what kind of education you're getting, but once is not always. I got news for you. All right. And flip your hat the right way. You look like a tool right now. You look like a 16-year-old tool. All right.
15 actually.
Yeah, I bet you're shaving off a few years because you can't wait till 18, huh?
No, I'm actually 15.
See, Fahey, I actually thought you were a little bit more. I thought your maturity. I assumed you were 16.
All right.
By the way, yeah, go ahead, Gary.
No, we went through his mock with Kyle Fahey and
Okay. Hey, Fahey, appreciate the call, man, and maybe I'll tune into your show and give you guys a ring. All right.
Yeah, 1 year anniversary on Friday. You gotta call us.
Fridays are tough, man. That's date night. I can't.
What do you get? What did you get in your date for that 1 year anniversary? What are you getting, Ben?
I'll unblock him on Instagram. How about that?
You guys are cute. All right,
Fahey, take care. All right, that's Kyle Fahey NFL official draft and at the Jet Take. All right, Gary. So let's get into your list.
Let's hear it. I know Travis. I scattered his Dolphins last week, but let's say I don't think we have a Dolphin that's even made this list this week. All right. So we left off with – let me pull it up.
And for those that didn't tune in last week, just so you know, so Gary came up with first round busts.
No, it's not. It's the worst picks in the last 20 years by the AFC East. And it just so happened that first round picks obviously hold more weight. So
okay, fair enough.
All right. So let me read off for the listeners that miss. I had Ted Ginn Jr. at number 20. Travis Wingfield believes he should be ranked higher. But Travis, he's still playing in the league right now, so that holds something. Obviously, it wasn't with the Dolphins. Number 19, Jason Allen, another Miami Dolphin. He was a safety. At number 18, we had Mark Sanchez, the Sanchez. At number 17, Jamar Fletcher, a cornerback drafted in 2001. And number 16, Jawan James, which you and Travis both gave me flack for that. But like I said, he's not a quality right tackle, and he wasn't projected to be in the first round, so that was a huge reach. And now we leave off our list with number 15. And Kyle, I believe last week I started to introduce this guy. I'm gonna take you back all the way to the 2003 NFL draft out of the University of Kentucky, nicknamed Baby Sat for Warren Sapp, Dwayne the Terror Robertson, 4th overall. Kyle, and you point out to me that this guy, you guys traded 4 days before the draft to go up to number 4.
Yeah, how stupid is that?
I mean, you showed your cards, but I was also pointing out to you that the Jets must have liked at least 4 players that they were deemed worthy enough to draft at that spot. They wouldn't have done it unless they had a 1 through 4 that was worthy of trading up for. But still, really dumb. And years ago, the Jets, I think in '95, they missed out on Warren Sapp for Kyle Brady, so they wanted to get Baby Sapp, and here he is. 6'1", 317 pounds. He played out his contract to the Jets, and Kyle, he spent 1 year in Denver, I believe, after that, but really never lived up to the hype. And he was out of the league shortly after that.
Damn, I was hoping his mock draftable was up. I wanted to see if he
No.
had freakish athletic ability, which I don't think he did. Yeah, this guy never did anything. What does he have? 1.5 career sacks? Is that correct? No, 16.
278 tackles.
Trash. I mean, and you trade up to get him. You trade into the top 4 to get him. That is just terrible.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, next pick, and this is a rare appearance for all my Patriots listeners out there. I'm going to take you to the 2006 draft, Kyle. A personal favorite to you, 21st overall in that draft, Lawrence Boney Maroney out of the University of Minnesota. Kyle, Lawrence Maroney. And, it's rare that running backs get taken in the first round. I mean, even in 2006, there was very few running backs that went. And even in the mid-2000s, there were very few running backs that went in the first round. AP, Marshawn Lynch. But Lawrence Maroney, Kyle, I think he only had 1 year that he had over 1,000 yards rushing. I know you're pulling up the mock draft, but I don't think you'd find anything on him. He was a hard-nosed runner, a little bit undersized. He had a 4.1 yards per carry, which is really nothing. I mean, 21 touchdowns.
It's a lot easier to run when you got Tom Brady back there. And
it is. But for a first-round pick, his career yards, 2,500. I mean, that's nothing. That's chump change. Backup running backs have that in a career. Yeah, so that was a huge bust. He ran very hard, and for a guy who weighs 210 pounds, he really didn't have the body frame to run like he was, and he was always riddled with injuries. And I believe he was cut prematurely before his contract was even up. So,
did he have a resurgence with anyone else? Did anyone pick him up after the Pats got him?
None that comes to my head, Kyle.
Pulling it up right now. It looks like he also had some legal troubles too.
I mean, there's a nice mugshot of him right there.
Let's see. Professional career, pre-draft Patriots. He did play with the Broncos for a little bit.
There you go.
That sounds about right. Didn't do
and
anything.
they traded him, I believe. I believe they traded him for a 6th-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, Lawrence Maroney, huge bust. We're going to get into another one, Kyle. We're making the Buffalo Bills are making an appearance now on this list. And
figures they're the last team to come in.
Well, that's bad for the Bills.
Well, it doesn't mean that they have others on the list.
Well, they have a ton. Like I said, they're in the 1 through 10, which is really bad. We're going to take you back to the 2013 draft, Kyle, a draft you and I were present for. It was probably historically one of the worst first rounds. Historically one of the worst drafts, period. And we watched the Buffalo Bills now, albeit they moved down in the draft, which is good. They picked up another 2nd-round pick. But in 2013, you pulled it up on the screen, with the 16th overall pick out of the University of Florida State, none other than E.J. Manuel, the quarterback of the franchise. Kyle, huge bust. And here's the thing. We talked about on our show last week. Did E.J. Manuel get a fair shake in Buffalo?
He even said he didn't.
Well, he said he didn't. But I truly believe that you earn the starts in practice. And obviously he didn't warrant the starting job in practice. Now to E.J. Manuel's defense, which is there's not much of, he was supposed to be put on hold for the first year. Kevin Cobb was supposed to be the guy, which is no impressive quarterback to be starting for a franchise. But Kevin Cobb ran to his arch nemesis, which is the rubber mat in training camps, which he slipped and he tore up his leg, and he never played for the Bills. And E.J. Manuel was thrust in the starting role, and he flashed Cobb. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens game his rookie year, the Carolina Panthers game his rookie year. There was the second meeting with the Jets, Kyle, where he turned your secondary into Swiss cheese. That was the famous game where D. Milner overran the wide receiver, and the wide receiver had to come back and catch the ball.
Jeez.
But either way, he was just not a good quarterback. The Bills moved on. They actually traded for Kyle Orton his second year under Doug Marrone. And then Tyrod Taylor beat him out in a starting job with Rex Ryan his first year. He just really never amounted to anything. And the Oakland Raiders, they have a big, strong arm quarterback, but accuracy is not one of his strong suits. And if for a guy,
how terrible was he in that Week 17 game against?
Oh, he was. I mean, he was throwing balls in the dirt. Not only that, Kyle, for a guy who runs a 4.65 and who's 6'5", 240 pounds, he doesn't like to pull the ball down and run at times.
And when he does, it's not impressive.
It's not at all. And you figure that he could, maybe handle some of these smaller DBs, but he can't. So big bust by the Buffalo Bills.
Not to mention, I think, maybe like when you're factoring in how big of a bust is this pick, like maybe the fact that they traded back lessens the bust factor, but the fact that his hard count is so disgusting, I think.
But he always gets your Jets to jump off sides. I don't get it. He must be doing.
I hate his cadence. It's so annoying. I feel bad for you Raiders fans.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're sticking with the Bills. I'm going to bring you to 2002, Kyle. And much like the Jets, Dwayne Robertson in 2003, this guy was taken 4th overall out of the University of Texas, Kyle, a former Longhorn, big at 6'6", 370 pounds, big Mike Williams. The guy was the size of a Mack truck, but bad feet. In fact, the Bills tried everything, Kyle. They tried moving him to right tackle at one point, and he did have a small stint at guard. Now, Kyle, he was out of the league for several years. He got his weight down to 337 pounds. He made a resurgence with the Washington Redskins, where he started several years, but he was terrible. I mean, constantly benched, constantly beat. And 4th overall, I remember, Kyle, if you play NFL 2K1 or NFL 2K2, if you did like the franchise season with the Buffalo Bills, after he would go from his rookie year, which was like an 80, he'd go to like a 96. He was like supposed to be the best thing out there. I mean, big guy, huge.
Oh my God, 375.
Yeah, he was a load of a man. And the Bills had the heaviest offensive lineman that year. They had a guy named Benny Anderson who had a small career with the Miami Dolphins. After that, he was 6'5", 345. They had Jonas Jennings, who was 335. They had a huge offensive line that year. They just couldn't – they could run block, but they couldn't pass block. Yeah, Mike Williams, Kyle. He is number 12 on our list. All right. Number 11, we're going to go to the New York Jets, and the Bills are going to make a lot of appearances from here on out. So, Kyle, I'm going to take you to the 2010 draft. You know that draft quite well.
Oh, yes.
So, in the 2010 draft, the New York Jets select Kyle Wilson, 29th overall, out of Boise State. The Piscataway product, Kyle.
Yeah.
Right around the corner from us. And, yeah, he was on a team with Cromartie and Revis, and you think he'd have some good guys to study from. And he was supposed to be that nickel corner. And really, Kyle, I think he was the only kink in that armor that the Jets had that year. They had some of the best pass defense, but a lot of touchdowns were given up out of the slot because of this kid.
Third downs given up.
Not a good tackler.
Rex needs the blitz. You need the corners to cover well because you can't create pressure from the guys who are just pure edge rushers.
Now look at that. Look at that. In the bench press, he did 25 reps. And Kyle, we always say how pointless the bench press is. For a guy who weighs 194 pounds, that is impressive, but that doesn't mean anything as when you're covering a wide receiver.
Yeah. You'd think it means, maybe he can press well. He benched a lot. No, it doesn't really mean that at all.
He probably could if he gets a hold of him. But with 30.5-inch arms, Kyle, you're not jamming anyone at the line of scrimmage with those little T-Rex arms.
I wonder what Justin Burr's arm length is. The corner of the Jets just drafted.
Are you talking about Patrick Peterson 2.0?
That's a Kyle Fahey dig right there.
What a dumb kid.
31. Oh, we're being harsh to him. He brings it on himself. Yeah, but some corners, have like 32-inch arms. But yeah, I mean, when you're 30.5, it's not necessarily going to be your strong suit. And you talk about guys that have bad feet and stuff. And that guy, he couldn't locate a ball worth a damn.
Yeah, he was not a good player. He spent a few years in New Orleans after that. He didn't sniff the field. Mostly a special teams guy, Kyle.
But Rob Ryan liked him, though.
Well, I mean, he carved out a career for himself on special teams as a gunner. But, for a first-round pick, 29th overall, and you think about it, he hasn't really and now he's going to be 30. He's still on the streets right now.
I'll say this about Kyle Wilson. When the Patriots drafted McCourty 2 picks earlier at pick 27, we're like, what? And then when we got Wilson at 29, I was like, yeah, the Patriots, they went and took the worst guy, and we got the better guy. How'd that turn out for us?
Yeah, right. That's what they're always 2 steps ahead of you. That's what the problem is with the New England Patriots. All right, 11th. Kyle, we're going to go back to the Buffalo Bills, take you to the 2009 draft. The Bills had 2 first-round picks this year. Now, one went on to be a Pro Bowl player and had a 10-year career with the Buffalo Bills, or was going to have a 10-year career with the Buffalo Bills. The other one did not even see his rookie contract out. And guess one was picked first out of the first 2 picks, the guy that's on our list. And I'm talking about none other than out of Penn State University, Mr. Aaron Mayhem Maven. Aaron Maven, Kyle.
Should I cue up the sound clip for that?
Do we have the YouTube sound clip?
I mean, if it still exists, I believe I can find it.
Pull it up. One of the best. I don't know why this hip hop song didn't go top 10.
Hold on. Well, keep talking while I try to find that thing.
Okay. Well, Aaron Maven, Kyle. As you know, this one hits home to me because that year I wanted a pass rusher. I wanted one so bad. I know that we needed one to complement Aaron Schobel. And he was getting up there in age. And the guy I wanted was there for the taking, but it wasn't Aaron Maven. It was Brian Arakpo, and we chose Aaron Maven over Brian Arakpo. And Kyle, to this day, every time I see Brian Arakpo make a play on TV, I always think, what could have been? So let's hear the audio that this fearsome pass rusher.
I think this is it. Hold on. So Aaron Maven, and by the way, obviously he was a draft pick by the Buffalo Bills. But let's not forget, the New York Jets picked him up on waivers after he was cut, and he went on to have 6 sacks in that season. And we thought, oh, maybe we got a little bit of a pass rush specialist. He'll never be out what he was drafted to be, but maybe he's got a little something. And then he was so bad after that, absolutely terrible in the run game. Could only run around people, could never win with power.
No,
Wes Craven, Sergeant Slaughter.
I love it.
These references.
Now keep in mind, Kyle, this guy held out to the camp. He did not sign his rookie deal. I think he had one of the highest. I think he actually had the highest guaranteed money in the contract.
Wow.
Yeah. So Aaron Maben is number 11, Kyle, and really probably should have been higher, but the guys that are coming up are even worse than Maben, believe it or not. And Aaron Maben, Kyle, another thing that really bothered me about Aaron Maben, he can never put any weight on.
At the combine, he had some weight, though, Gary.
I mean, he was 250 pounds. One of Mike Mayock's biggest digs was he didn't think he could sustain that weight. And sure enough, Kyle, he reported to camp one year at a slim 228 pounds at the defensive end position. That's just simply not going to get it done.
And think about it, too. Like, you could tell that was artificial weight that he put on because he ran a 4.78. And for a guy that's supposed to be a speed rusher to run a 4.78, I mean, that's not impressive at all. Von Miller ran a 4.42. Myles Garrett, 270 pounds, ran a 4.64. We were talking about William Hayes the other day, and Travis Wingfield just wrote a piece about him, 4.59. These guys are up in the 270s. Maben did all that work to get up to 250, but it was an artificial 250, and he looked slower as a result.
Yeah, you could tell that's not what he's a slim guy, narrow shoulders. That's not what his body is able to hold. And you could look at him today, now being a grown man at almost 30 years old, Kyle. He's still as skinny as a rail. You know, I can tell you this right now. Me at 29, it's hard for me to lose weight. I'm just naturally a bigger guy. Even when I watch I eat, it's hard for me to get down. It's hard for me to get down to 245 if I try. But Aaron Maben probably could do that with just skipping a meal once. You know, it's just unbelievable. You could tell he was never meant to be 250 pounds.
Yeah. And he was never meant to be the 11th overall pick.
Never. But he's meant to be on our list, Kyle, and that's why he made it.
Oh, well, he's good for something. You know what's funny about that song? If you look at the video, it says, "Congrats, you lasted this long, 40 seconds." That's the exact time I stopped it. Didn't even plan that, but
they have a New York Jet Aaron Maben highlight clip. I just saw it. The Jets will make highlight clips of anything.
Yeah, they sure will. That's what we're known for, man. We got to find ways, and that's the thing about highlight clips, guys. Guys, if any of you guys listen to the show,
Kyle, yeah, that's another thing. Hold on, let me just because I'm going to forget it after you mention it. Buffalo Bills fans are the worst when it comes to highlight clips, except Eric Turner. Jerry Hughes has been on the team for how long, Kyle? He's had multiple 10-plus sack years. There's no highlight clips of him. He's one of the most – he has got one of the best motors in the league. No highlight clips of Kyle Williams, Kyle. There's not a single highlight clip of Kyle Williams.
That's a travesty.
It's the Bills fans, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you're listening to this show, you are the worst when it comes to highlight videos. And I can't make them, Kyle. I don't pretend to be a great video editor, but come on, give me something.
It's crazy, too, because Buffalo's got such a passionate fan base. You would think that, I mean, I'm thinking, there's not many guys like Eric Turner out there. And I'm thinking, part of the reason this guy puts in all the hours that he does is because he's a Bills fan.
But
Bills fans are die hard.
You would think there'd be multiple videos of Kyle Williams and Jerry Hughes out there of highlights. You know, I tell you right now, you know who has some of the best Eagles fans? They'll put a highlight video clip of any.
Oh my God, yes. And I don't know if this is true, but it's got to be close to true. In my school, the kids that I have, I might have more Eagles fans than any other fan base.
Really?
And this one kid is always watching Eagles clips. Yo, mister, we're going to draft John Ross, man. We're going to draft McCaffrey. Every day he's coming in with a new mock draft prospect.
Kyle, I want you to pull, there's a lot of Bills fans. We're still in search of a right tackle, we think, even though I believe that we do have solutions there. And a lot of Bills fans were saying, well, King Dunlap's available right now. Why don't we go after King Dunlap?
You have King Ugly and King Dunlap. How about that?
Yeah, we'd have two Kings on a roster. But there's an Eagles fan that talks about King Dunlap. If you YouTube it, it is so funny. I mean,
is it worth pulling up?
It is worth pulling. I just a viewer's discretion. This is PG-13.
What am I supposed to search? King Dunlap.
King Dunlap. You'll see a rather large fellow on the screen. It's like pull the screen up so I can see it.
Oh, okay. Hold on. And by the way, those of you that are wondering who the heck is King Dunlap, he played for the Eagles for a bit, played for the Chargers most recently. He's super, super tall.
He's about 6'9". Oh, yes. King Dunlap, 3 years ago, 58 seconds. This guy is the best. His screen handle is, put it on pause real quick, Kyle.
Yeah.
His screen handle is, I'll abbreviate, is EDP445. Follow this guy or on YouTube or whatever. He has some of the funniest rants. When LaShawn McCoy got cut or traded, Kyle, one of the funniest rants. Go ahead.
All right.
This is pure gold.
You know what, to be honest with y'all niggas, man, I ain't even the fuck mad, dude. King Dunlap fucked this whole game up for us, nigga, as y'all can see by the title. King Dunlap fucked everything up, nigga, because you already know Nick Foles had to come in, you know. He was leading us down the field. It was 17-17, and what happens? Nick Foles, he scrambles out of the pocket, throws it to Jeremy Maclin, but oh no, King Dunlap, I hope they catch you, sorry ass nigga. This stupid motherfucker, I believe it was hands to the face. He fucked everything up, my nigga. King Dunlap, you fucking suck, man. A little bit of update, and I tell you, dude, King Dunlap fucked this whole game up for us, dude. Not only did this stupid motherfucker did hands to the face, he had another pen. I can't think of what it was. It really fucked it up, man. It fucked it up, dude. Like,
oh man, he's just got that large African American guy that you just have to love.
Oh my God, his rants on the Eagles are the best. We need to have we need to find something like that that's on our fan base. But this guy is.
I tell you what, I went to college with a guy that reminds me so much of this guy. He's a Redskins fan. His name's Dante Winslow. In fact, him and this other guy, they used to make like roast videos where they would like roast people, different players on the football team, and then put them up on Facebook and YouTube. I remember one time they tried to get on me saying that I better go back to Supercuts and get my hair shaped up. But he's a big Redskins fan. I know he listens to our show every now and then, even though he's a Skins fan. And I told him, I guess you could call in, but we're not talking about the Redskins.
Yeah.
But, I guess maybe in a couple of years when we play the NFC East again, we can have that guy on, King Dunlap's boy, and maybe we can get Dante Winslow on the show as well. Bring some.
I think we should reach out to that EDP 445. I think he'd bring some good obviously.
Can I ask him about LaShawn McCoy?
Well,
Kiko Alonso.
Well, can I? I mean, there is another clip of him. LaShawn McCoy was on the show called Ridiculousness. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's on MTV.
No.
And that guy had a reaction video when they traded LaShawn McCoy, and they played it right in front of LaShawn McCoy. You could tell he was definitely he was happy that fan was so hurt by. Yeah, you could tell he was genuinely happy the fan cared about him being traded.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably one of the coolest things. It was a cool thing to watch.
Wow.
Yeah. Kyle, let's talk. I mean, last week I don't want to brag and boast, but we didn't talk a single lick about the Buffalo Bills last week.
And I guess, shoot, man, we've been accused in the past by, especially this guy Scooby, said, "Oh, your show's just about the Buffalo Bills." Yeah,
we have. I mean, I think we've been more Dolphins and Patriots than anything else as of lately.
Yeah, definitely more Jets than Bills over the past couple months. That's for sure.
Well, I think it's been Dolphins heavy, but either way, we try to get all the teams, and sometimes there's just no news to report in some of these franchises. But they had Sean McDermott on today, Kyle, for the press conference, and he said some interesting things, and I want you to comment on it, me being a Bills fan. Number one is he said, quite frankly, I believe this number 2 wide receiver is already on the roster. So, I mean, that's definitely interesting. Maybe that gives some insight into where the Bills might be thinking draft. There's a lot of rumors that O.J. Howard might be the pick at number 10.
Who's he referring to there? Is he referring to Charles Clay?
I mean, or Andre Holmes that they just picked up. Maybe that. I don't know. It's just interesting take. I found it to be interesting. And here's another thing that Sal Capaccio kind of cleared up, Kyle, is that they're definitely going to – it was taken out of context, and maybe you could also read into it too. I only combed over briefly before we got on the show, but basically someone asked about a picture at linebacker, what the linebacking group will be like, given his success in Carolina with their linebackers. And like we've already mentioned, looks like Lorenzo Alexander at the Sam. They also mentioned Roman Humber, who's more of a special teams guy at the will. Mm-hmm. He's more of a smaller guy. And interesting enough, he mentioned Reggie Ragland at the mic, or they're going to try him at the mic. But Preston Brown, he also mentioned, would be a mic linebacker. So it seems like the 2 best linebackers that are on the Bills roster on paper might be vying for that same spot.
Interesting. And has Preston played more of a mic? Has he been more mic over the past couple seasons?
Well, obviously under Rex Ryan, there's 2 inside linebackers.
Yeah.
And that's what the role he was playing next to Zach Brown. And then the year before, Nigel Bradham. But
other teams wish they had him.
Yeah, the teams wish they had him. But under Jim Schwartz, Kyle, Preston was the will linebacker.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to be the lineup. I thought that it would be Preston. Now, keep in mind, I didn't get to see the full interview, but it just sounded like to me that they might be vying for the same spot. Interesting enough, Kyle, if that is the case, I do think that Preston is up for trade. And it wouldn't shock me one bit if Jim Schwartz and the Eagles wouldn't be interested in Preston Brown, if that is the case.
It's a good point, because obviously, when Travis came on before, we were talking about, defensive lineman, is William Hayes going to start? And Travis basically said, well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, as long as he gets a significant amount of snaps. But there's a different type of rotation when you're talking about defensive line versus linebackers. D-line, you're constantly rotating. You constantly want guys fresh so that they have a burst that they can get to the quarterback. Linebacker, not exactly the case. You're going to rotate those guys less so. And when you run a predominantly 4-3 based defense, you're going to want those your top 3 guys on the field. So in terms of the inside middle backer, why would you, Reggie Ragland? Yes, you paid a premium draft pick to get him. What was it, 41st overall, something like that. You traded up to get him, swapped 2 4th-rounders to move up in the 2nd round and get him. But there's still the concern of, well, he's coming off an ACL. We don't know how good he's going to be. And Preston Brown, although, for a 3rd-round pick, he's a damn good pick. Now you're concerned maybe you don't want to give him that big-time contract in the future. Maybe he's not a great scheme fit. But I think that he's shown you that he has versatility to play in a multitude of systems. Jim Schwartz, we had Kevin Dern on a couple of weeks ago who talked about the wide 9. Jim Schwartz ran a lot of that base 4-3 package. He played at the will. He's played as the Mike. He's a versatile player. So although you might think he might be better as a Mike than a Will, McDermott likes those athletic linebackers. And I don't know that you'd consider Preston Brown that. you're obviously the team's not going to move away from Reggie Ragland anytime soon. But I don't know if trading him would be a smart move. And what could you get from him? Second, third round pick?
I don't know. I mean, maybe this is like I said, and maybe I'm playing into the Jets unicorn theory in when I go with this one, but I'm just connecting dots. I'm thinking to myself, Jim Shorts, former defense coordinator, always liked Preston Brown, was very high on him his rookie season. And obviously there's also rumors that Michael Kendricks is up for trade.
He's been rumored for years.
I know. So he's more of a will linebacker in what Sean McDermott's trying to do.
I like him. He's athletic. He's good and his brother's really good in coverage as well.
That's what I'm trying. I'm just connecting dots. Like I said, I'm doing the Jets unicorn theory that you and Joe Blewett like doing a lot. So
take a shot at him while he's not here, of course.
Joe, I would say it to his face, Kyle. You know that. I have no qualms about doing that. Speaking of which, Joe wants me to go to Atlantic City with him next week, so we'll see.
Oh, geez, you guys better behave.
Or this weekend, actually. I don't know. I got to check my calendar. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, that could be a trade to look out for. I mean, we've seen Doug Willing come to do player-for-player swap before.
And the Eagles love trading. They traded to the Dolphins, traded to the Bills, traded up to get Carson Wentz in the draft. Howie Roseman loves to wheel and deal. That's for sure. Think about the dream season, the dream team season.
The only thing I'm concerned about if that trade goes down, which, like I said, it's all speculation at this point, is Michael Kendricks has a big cap hit. I know he signed an extension.
He did? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because he was in the same draft class as Luke Kuechly and Bradham and Zach Brown.
He was a second rounder?
He was a second rounder. Look at his cap hit for me, Kyle, real quick.
Yeah, I'm pulling that up. Oh, he's only 5'11".
He's a short guy. I think he might have ran a 4.47 or something ridiculous.
Michael Kendricks. I mean, yeah, 4.47. That's what Darren Lee ran. That's Jabril Peppers. 4.47 is legit for a guy playing linebacker. He's 4.47. I mean, his measurables off the chart. 3 cone, 94th percentile, 6.68 vertical, 10-yard split, 1.53, 95th percentile. I mean, yeah, he's certainly lacking in the size department, but in terms of speed and athleticism, he's right there. I like him.
I mean, I like him too. I think that he would be better suited for what McDermott's trying to run. But like I said, you'd have to find two to tango. It's just connecting the dots. I know Shorts likes Preston Brown. He always ranted a raven about him his rookie year. Obviously, they went after a lot of Bills players, Kyle, last season when they acquired Jim Shorts, Ron Brooks, Nigel Bradham, Leotis McKelvin. So, with that all being said, and don't be surprised, Kyle, right now if Mario Williams winds up being a Dolphin. Even though they acquired Chris Long today, I still wouldn't be surprised that Mario Williams makes an appearance on that Eagles roster.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, their predominant pass rusher coming off the edge is Brandon Graham, but Brandon Graham is a very he's a short guy, short arms, and when we had Kevin Dern on, talking about the wide nine and principles of it, Miami's trying to run a version of that down in Miami, and Kevin was saying, you want long type of defensive ends, long guys, long arms. JPP was a candidate they were possibly talking about if he hit free agency. Mario Williams, he might not be a lot of things. He certainly doesn't have the burst that he used to have, but he's still long. He's still 6'7". He's still got them long arms. So in terms of, I guess, doing that, he still has that, but, there's also all the other questions.
Yeah. Kyle, got to ask you, man. The Jets have been quiet. I know they acquired a center this today.
Who? I didn't even see that.
Former. I tell you what, he can't be any good because he came from the Colts.
Oh, geez, no.
I think his name was like John Harrison or something like that.
John Harrison.
I don't know. Look him up. Anyway, are the Jets pretty much done until the draft comes around?
I mean, they might pick up a guy here or there. Teams usually do that. They usually – listen, they're at this point, I don't think teams are really scared that they're going to lose out on a guy. I don't think teams are really going to waver on their offers that much. Here's our number. You don't like it, come back, and we'll talk to you in the future. And, people will go and they'll search elsewhere. Like they'll talk to different teams and maybe they'll come back. I could see them adding a player here or there, but is it going to be a big-time guy? No, I don't think so. I don't think we talked about Morris Claiborne, did we?
I mean, if we did, it was very sparingly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you and Fahey hit on that last week. Well, I mean, what are your thoughts on Morris Claiborne? He was a guy that, Eric Turner said, like, I mean, obviously the injuries are concerned, but, he was saying a potential option for the Bills. I think a lot of people in Bills Nations were at least open to that idea.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. The Bills are going to add some corners because right now they only have, I think, 5 on the roster, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5. So sheer numbers, he was one name I was definitely targeting because you figure you could get him at the price point what the Jets just got him at. He had a really good season last year. Make no bones about it. He had a good year, but the problem is, much like the Josh Norman factor, can he do that year in year out? Because we saw him struggle mightily in years prior to the time. And listen, another big concern about Morris Claiborne is the injury history.
Yep,
the guy constantly was hurt. And here's a guy that, much like Darrelle Revis, never really was known as a speedster or a very fast twitch guy. He was a good technique guy, but I don't think he had quite the smarts as Darrelle Revis did to understand the game. But I tell you right now, he's still a young guy, former first-round pick. He was taken very high in the draft. And if he can repeat what he did last year, then the Jets won on that move, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about the injury history with him, the name that comes to mind, Gary, is, and maybe this is unfair, I'm not even saying they play in a similar style, but just injury concern alone and the fact that they're both SEC guys, top 10 picks, is D. Milner.
Yeah.
Highly touted guy.
I could say this right now, Kyle. D. Milner never had a year like Morris Claiborne did.
No, he didn't. I mean, he showed flashes, but no, he certainly didn't have. But I mean, Morris,
it's amazing.
Talk about how good his year was, but it was only 7 games, though. Or was it 10 games?
It's amazing to me that D. Milner is not getting another shake in the league. In fact, the only look he had last year was by the Carolina Panthers, and supposedly it was because of Sean McDermott had interest in him. It's the only workout he ever got last year, and he was taken what, 9th overall?
Yeah, D. Milner was 9th overall. The draft that we went to, man, we always like to cite that.
I got to say this, Kyle, though. As much as we talk about, the few times we talked about D. Milner, you've always mentioned me. You ever hear him in an interview?
Oh,
and you could tell that.
Gosh,
you don't even know if he could spell his first name after listening to him talk.
And wasn't he one of those guys that got like single digits in the Wonderlic?
Oh, it does not shock me not one bit with this guy.
Yeah,
but either way, being drafted that high, being that young, you feel like another team would at least take a crack at him. And he's only had a sniff, and that's it. And listen, let's face it, he hasn't even been on a roster since. Team's not even taking a flyer on him right now.
Going back to Claiborne, I'm not like mad over the signing. Like, I don't dislike it. Like I told you, I would, even though Hightower is a good player, I would have disliked that signing. I don't dislike this one, but I definitely don't like it at all. And if I had to say more dislike or like, I'd say, I don't know, maybe I'm definitely in the middle. But look at this injury concern. I mean, we're not talking a couple games here or there. I mean, we brought up injury concern with Hightower, but this guy, the most games he's ever played in a year is 15. Then it's 10, 4, 11, and 7. And we talk about, he had a good year last year. It's only 7 games. That's less than half the games. And he hasn't played more than 11 games in a season. I mean, only one other time. And that was all the way his rookie year where he had 15 games. And you don't get healthier as you get older. This to me is quite scary. And also, people, his measurables aren't that good either. But, I mean, I guess that really doesn't matter. But it's basically 1 year of production last year, and it's a very limited sample size. So, Jets fans that might be thinking about making a highlight tape of this guy, you might want to think away.
Well, I could tell you this right now. Being at 27 years old, and like I said, if you could get X amount of games at him, it's all a 1 year deal. It's very low risk, Another thing that's concerning is he's never had more than 1 interception in a season. So he's a guy that doesn't really make a play on the ball if he has a chance.
And the crazy thing about that too, Gary, is that's what he was known as coming out of the
Yeah.
draft. He was known he's not super athletic. Yeah, he's long, but he's going to make plays on the ball. He's a guy who can play off coverage, and he can go and be a ball hawk and take it for 6 the other way. That's what he was billed as.
Kyle, what year was he drafted? 2012, right? Yeah, he was taking over Stephon Gilmore.
2012, 6th overall, into which the Dallas Cowboys traded up to get him too. Dallas Cowboys did not own that pick.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, you're only tied to him 1 year. If he doesn't pan out, he doesn't pan out. No harm, no foul. But if he could repeat the productivity that he had the games he was healthy last year, then listen, the Jets are not going to be setting the world on fire this season. I think everyone knows that. Even our guest on today, Ben, even said that. They look dismal at best. So I'm not. Was this move even necessary? That's another question you can ask yourself. Was it necessary? But at the same token, you want your team to at least be. You want to put at least a product on the field. Unfortunately, Kyle, in this division, you need defensive backs.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, you're talking about building for the long-term future, and you look at the Jets. I mean, he's their biggest free agent signing, other than out of house free agent signing. That's the biggest guy, and you sign him to a 1-year deal. That's not towards building for the future. So it's interesting to say the least.
Well, I think also they can look at it like this: if he does work out, they could franchise him next year, and the Jets, if they do take a franchise quarterback this year in the draft, which all signs point they will, you still get a young player. He's going to be 28 next year. Like you said, you could probably franchise him, if not sign him to a team-friendly deal. Maybe they're looking at least get him in the building so we can at least have control of him. I don't know. The Jets, this is going to be a very interesting season for the New York Jets because they've already embraced the rebuild, and it's going to be a lot of questions are going to be answered. Do they have a franchise quarterback on the roster? Are one of these young guys going to pan out?
There's no more pressure on anybody other than Todd Bowles.
And Mike Maccagnan, Kyle.
Mike Maccagnan too, but like I said, GMs get a longer shelf life. And, hey, listen, if Woody Johnson is going to really believe in his GM, he's rebuilding. So it's more on the coach if they don't produce this year than the GM. The GM's taking the long-term approach.
Well, wouldn't you be
especially if he drafts a quarterback too.
All right. That's the thing I wanted to get at was, wouldn't you be upset if I'm the owner and I'm saying, hey, man, what are you doing, Mike? You're drafting quarterbacks every year. In fact, a second-round pick last year. Where is our guy? Because let's say if Trubisky not Mitchell. If Mitchell doesn't work out, Trubisky.
Talk about Mitchell or Hackenberg?
Either. I don't even know if they're going to – I'm whoever they're going to draft in the first round. If Hackenberg if they do draft a quarterback in the first round, they don't work out, it's going to look really bad.
Oh, yeah. But, if you draft a guy 6th overall, you got to give him time. That's, best believe the Rams are giving Jared Goff time, and he was absolutely terrible last year. I get
that, Kyle, but still, it's like stop spending our resources at quarterback. Like, you're done after this year, and if let's say it's Watson or whoever at the first round that they take, and he doesn't perform well, I don't know. Woody Johnson was a patient guy for Rex Ryan, but he's definitely
the guy wants to win.
He wants to win. And here's another interesting take. I know a lot of people are making about his brother being at the owners' meeting. What's your thoughts on that?
When we first heard that his brother, I think his name's Chris Johnson, if I'm not mistaken. When we were first hearing about that, us as Jets fans were like, good, get Woody out of the team because Woody always seems to mess things up. If this guy just kind of listen, this is not my team. I don't want to mess with my brother's team. Let me just stay the hell out of everything. I don't think that could be a bad thing. Let football guys make football decisions, as they say. So I really don't care if Woody Johnson's not around. It means nothing to me. If anything, I see it as more of a positive thing, if you can even say that.
Yeah, I see it both ways. So it's just interesting. I was in the headlines. I felt like you should address it. And to me, I made nothing of it. I didn't think there was going to be a changing of the guard or Woody Johnson is selling it to his brother or giving, power of control to his brother. I didn't think any of that. So.
Oh, it's definitely not that. I mean, he's trying to make a mark on his life. He's already filthy rich, just like Donald Trump. And now it's like, okay, well, I did the rich thing. I did the money thing. I have a team, but now let me be a service to my country. So I think that's what he wants to do now. He's invested in that. And I guess he trusts the guys to do decisions. I think that maybe he has learned a little bit from the mistakes of his past. I mean, if Jets fans still think, he's bad, he used to be way worse in terms of getting his fingers on the team and sticking his nose in everything. So I don't know. I'm not optimistic going forward. You guys know that, but
two more tabloids we got to address. One in Miami, Kyle, the Deion Jordan situation. We talked about it earlier. Basically, Tannenbaum came out and said, I think that, in a nonchalant way, kind of said that chapter's over with, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, they've been holding out hope for this guy for years, and what has it gotten him? I don't know if he's counting against them on the cap. Is he? I don't think so. But what is he? I mean, he was a bust even when he got on the field. People always like to hype him up. Well, he's a good coverage linebacker, and he did it a lot in college. But that's not what you drafted him for. And I think that's a little overblown just because he had a good coverage player too on Gronk. I think that's a bit overblown. And he's never showed you any consistency as a pass rusher, not even dating back to college.
No.
I remember Daniel Jeremiah saying, hey, listen, I like Deion Jordan. I like what he does in the passing. But every time I watch the guy, he's dropping back into coverage, and I'm sitting there staring at the screaming, let him rush the quarterback. But the fact is he did not rush the quarterback a lot in college, so there wasn't even a lot of production dating back to college.
Yeah, I never was impressed with him at Oregon. Kyle, here's another thing. When he came out of the draft, he's listed at 6'6", 248, which is very lanky, and it's not bad size for a rush linebacker. Now he's listed at 6'6", 275, so his frame has totally changed. Like we mentioned, that Aaron Maben thing. I don't know if he's a guy that could walk around at 275.
Yeah, when you inflate yourself that much weight, I mean, he's a guy that won off athleticism. You get that big, you think you're going to really stay that athletic? And it's one thing like all right, take Myles Garrett, for example. We all know that he went to the combine and he showed that he was a freak. If you go and you take his high school measurables, he's maybe 30, 40 pounds lighter or something like that. And he's running maybe like a 5 flat, close to that. Clearly, he was able to put on a lot of weight and still get athletically better, but that's a young kid growing. There's a big difference when you're 17, 18 years old and you're growing into your young 20s versus being in your young 20s growing into your late 20s.
Yep.
So I mean, it doesn't seem like natural weight, and maybe he's holding out hope like, oh, if I change my body demeanor up and stuff, I can be the guy that they drafted me to be in terms of a pass rusher and stop all this dropping and coverage nonsense. But I actually like Deion Jordan coming out of the draft too, and I think it was more so than me watching tape. It was me getting caught up with the measurables, the size. He's almost got 34-inch arms, good length, 4'6", good enough. His vertical is really not that good, but I can't say that I knew a lot about that. Pretty good 3-cone drill. Broad jump is good. And just the main reason I guess I wanted him is because back then I would say that I was more ignorant and it was more need-based approach. We need this in the draft. We need a corner. We need an edge rusher. We've needed an edge rusher since John Abraham. Well, who's the best edge rusher available? And I guess that's who I thought it was that year. But I'm glad that we didn't trade up to get him, that's for sure. And by the way, Anyway, what was the other piece of news?
Yeah, Kyle, and I also wanted you to get your take on, I know you've probably been reading it on Twitter. Supposedly, Sean McDermott addressed this today, and I really didn't pay much mind into it either. Because here's the thing, Kyle. Supposedly there's a rift between Doug Whaley and Sean McDermott. And now, supposedly after the draft, Doug Whaley will get fired. That's what Jerry Sullivan put out there. And Kyle, Jerry Sullivan, he's much like he's basically the Bills version of Manesh. He puts out a lot of information and it's more for just shock factor. Now, shockingly enough, Sean McDermott addressed this today, and he said that, our relationship's great. And Kyle, here's the guy that Doug Whaley, Terry Pegula went on the record and said, we're giving him full control of picking out the head coach. We don't want our hands in this one. And this was Doug Whaley's guy, supposedly. And here's another interesting thing. Doug Whaley was also at the owners' meeting. Typically, when they're about to can the GM, they usually tell him to take that week off. So I don't believe there's much validity to that. What's your take on this?
I don't want to act like I'm very well read on the situation because I'm not. I've heard things saying like, the Bills want Whaley to be a puppet figure. They don't want him to say all that much. If you go back to Whaley's press conference, which the media just tore into him, we talked about that extensively. There was a whole thing. I was not privy to those conversations. They kept pressing him. Are you going to be in charge of hiring the new head coach? Which some people indicated, well, the ownership is going to have a good amount of say in that. Is he Doug Whaley's handpicked guy? And if he's not, then yeah, just because Whaley might say, or McDermott might say, yeah, we have a great relationship, we know that that's not always the case. Rex Ryan and John Idzik, they always said, everything was all, happy and go lucky with them. They never would speak, at least publicly, bad about one another. But under the surface, we knew what was up. I don't know. I don't want to act like I know a lot. I'd be curious to get Drew's take on this. We should maybe get him on next week. In terms of commenting on Jerry Sullivan, yeah, before you even said Manish, that was the name I was thinking of. And another reason he reminds me of him is both these guys, I don't understand how you can cover a sport for a living and know very little about it. If you started questioning Manish or Sullivan on the X's and O's of football, and they've been, covering for 10-plus years, it's their life. It's their job. They're just so ignorant when it comes to actual schematics of the game, which is pretty disturbing. So someone like that, I would hold very little into what he says, but I don't know that I'm sold that the two like one another either. But again, I'm not going to act like I'm well read on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, Terry Pegula was actually interviewed today. I'm reading one of his quotes that Sean McDermott and Doug Whaley work well together and get along great. It's coming from the owner.
And I don't know why the owner would say anything different, though. But
you've seen owners in the past be kind of standoffish before. The Rex Ryan firing, I remember weeks leading up to it, they're like, oh, we'll comment until after the football. We'll see how the season plays out. It was kind of being vague there wasn't a straightforward answer with Terry Pegula.
It wasn't towards the end of the season when it was looking very likely that Rex was going to get fired. He wouldn't even do press conferences, Pegula, anymore.
Well,
He totally stepped down from media appearances, and I guess that would be why.
Well, he's out in public and he's talking about it. So, that's not a bad sign. I don't think that there's much validity to this argument. Like I said, Doug Whaley supposedly the one who's handpicked Sean McDermott. So
it'd be interesting. I know it's a sticky situation because you have a whole year of evals, a whole college football season. It just seems weird to fire a GM right after a draft. Okay, we're going to let him do the whole draft and then we're going to fire him. That to me doesn't make all that much sense. So we're saying that he's got this plan through free agency and through the draft this year, and so much is made on. You're basically going to give a whole draft class to a new GM that didn't have his. Wouldn't it make more sense to just get your new guy in before the draft? Surely, yeah, he doesn't have all his scouts and whatnot. But you mean to tell me if you're hiring a GM, this guy is obviously dug into a lot of tape and has strong opinions about these players. Yeah, sure, he doesn't have all that work that goes into it, but to me that wouldn't make much sense. So that would be just so stupid by an organization. Draft. Go ahead.
It reminds me kind of when Buddy Nix stepped down right after drafting that 2013 draft. It's all right, this is my draft, but here's your new GM, Doug Whaley. And it was kind of so a lot of people blame that draft on Doug Whaley because he took over right after the draft. And he was
that was Buddy Nix though, and didn't Buddy Nix go out publicly and say I was in charge of finding the next franchise quarterback, and that's what I did. I drafted EJ.
Yeah, he openly said that, but like I said, Doug Whaley gets a lot of flack for that draft. keep in mind he was on the staff, but I don't know how much you could put on Doug Whaley. At the end of the day, it's got to be that was Buddy Nick's final decision to make that hand in that card.
Yeah, I mean, I think Whaley probably played a decent role in that, and I think I've retweeted comments about Whaley actually saying that explicitly. But at the end of the day, though, that was Nick's had final say, though. There's no question about that. Yeah. And maybe Whaley was the guy that did so much of the research and info and interviewing of the player and whatnot, and really sold him to Nick's, but Nick still signed off at the end.
I mean, that was a bad year for quarterbacks in general. So
yeah, Geno Smith,
except Mike Glennon, Kyle.
Mike Glennon, yeah, he's got a big.
If I told you that out of Matt Barkley, Geno Smith, EJ Manuel, and Mike Glennon, that Mike Glennon would be the highest paid quarterback when their contract year was up, would you believe me? Going back originally. In 2013.
I wouldn't be shocked. I remember when at the end of the season, Gary, and we first started talking combine and draft type and whatnot, the mock drafts were they were still coming out new, and we were talking about potential the Jets had the 9th pick in the draft, and you were saying, hey, listen, there's a mock draft saying that you guys might draft the North Carolina State quarterback.
I think I was joking when I said that.
I don't know. I think we might have been both serious at the point. I think that was before both of us really watched him. But he was getting first-round hype at the beginning of the draft process. And then as the combine had – go ahead.
No, I think it was more – I mean, I was always the guy that kind of laughed at Mike Glennon and then laughed with him.
I do think there was a little bit of that because he's such a big goofball or whatever. But at the end of the day, if a guy can play, even if he's ugly and goofy, then so what? And I don't know that either of us at that point.
First of all, let's go on the record. I never said he was ugly. So I don't want
all right.
I don't want to be another Terry Bradshaw about Jeff Garcia.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Next thing, Mike Glennon's mom's calling on our show.
Jeez. That would I guess that could maybe boost ratings, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. We should get in fact, Mike Glennon, you're ugly. I hope your mom calls in. There, I said it on the record.
I got nothing else. I don't think you have anything else. So let me go and plug all the info. AFC_EastPro, Gary's Twitter handle. I'm at AFC EastPros. Email AFCEastPros@gmail.com. If you could write us a 5-star, that's right, 5-star rating and review on iTunes, that would be greatly appreciated. I believe Biff Sweeney recently gave us one, although I didn't see the actual review. I just saw the 5-star rating. I didn't see if there was a review written. Maybe there was, but last I checked, it wasn't posted. You can go and do the same. We'd greatly appreciate that. It helps get the show out to many other cool AFC East fans, so we'd appreciate that. I'm Kyle, speaking for Gary, and we're signing off, and we'll see you next time.